Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about overcoming your artistic setbacks in order to create masterpieces. So as artists, we've all encountered setbacks before. And if you're listening to this right now and you don't even draw, you're gonna experience setbacks in your life even when you're not an artist. It could be for any number of things, regardless of your profession. But the question you have to ask yourself is, what are you going to do about it once it happens? For example, in 2023, I got laid off from my job, which is one of the main reasons why I started my whole channel up again. But during that time, I knew that the cavalry was not coming for me. Just like so many others that are struggling, because the video game visual effects industry, pretty much the whole tech industry in general, we've just been absolutely hammered the past 2 years. It's been overhauled and destroyed. I wouldn't even say overhauled because that's like a positive way to say it, but it's been upended. Let's just put it that way. And there's a lot of people out there right now that their unemployment is running out. They haven't gotten a job in over a year. And it's not even their fault. It's just crazy out there right now. And that's just one of many types of setbacks that you can have. So today's lesson is about how you can overcome that and what you can do in order to, I guess, weather the storm. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to be doing this gnarly little alien sketch here. If you're wondering what this is over there, I gave a lesson on this before. I don't even remember what video that is. I'm just going to kind of leave that in frame just for fun, so you can see the zombie demon while I'm drawing another critter from deep space. I guess it is from deep space, I don't know. I got my candle burning too. It's one of those candles that you get at Target where the wick, you can hear it crackle. I always like that. It is December and it's cold enough to have the fire going in my fireplace, but I don't really want to start that up yet. I just actually bled the radiators, so the whole radiator is filling up with water now, and I have heat in my apartment, so that's kind of nice. Anyway, what the heck am I talking about? Oh yeah, overcoming artistic setbacks. So I just want to give you an example of what might actually happen. J.K. Rowling was a single mom at one point on welfare before she started writing the Harry Potter series. So think about that for a minute. And I believe Stephen King was a janitor before he started writing his crazy books. He was like upper 30s, early 40s. Correct me if I'm wrong if you're like a super duper Stephen King fan or J.K. Rowling fan. But, there's other setbacks too. Let's say you're going through a hardship in your family or a death in your family. Maybe finances aren't all that great. All those are legit, especially anything that really hits you emotionally. I mean, we've all been through some pretty heavy stuff. Some of us are going through it now, and some of us will probably be going through it soon or have gone through it in the past. And it's just a matter of how you pick yourself back up. So opportunities are there for you to learn and grow. When I'm faced with a creative block, I just take a step back and I ask myself, what I can learn from the experience. We're not always creative. Sometimes we just hit a rut and we don't really know how to get out of that rut. And you have to ask yourself again, what am I missing? What am I not doing versus blaming somebody else for them not helping you? All right. So let's say for instance, you're just not putting in the right amount of effort to get good at something, but you keep blaming outside factors of you not being able to achieve that specific thing. Okay, you have to hold yourself accountable for it, and it's hard. It's really, really hard, especially if you know you're good at something, but it just seems like the world is against you. Look, man, we've all been there before. Okay, on a side note, I have no idea what I'm drawing. I haven't even seen The Thing in over a year. It looks like The Thing. I don't even know what that is. Ugh. Okay, let's see where this goes. But anyway, you just got to keep pushing forward when that kind of stuff happens. You can't give up. Okay, you will find ways to turn those setbacks into opportunities for growth and creativity. Easier said than done, though, right? I mean, I'm sitting here talking to you from a YouTube video, and some of you that have no idea who I am are just watching me draw this monster. But I'm also trying to help you overcome anything that you might be going through. I like to give life lessons too. Those of you that have been subscribed to my channel for a while, you know what I'm talking about. I feel like I can at least have some wisdom for you to give. One pivotal strategy that I've done over the years, if I've ever had a setback, regardless of what it is just to switch my perspective. It's a mindset, and it's a lot easier said than done. Okay, when you adopt a new mindset, and you'll be able to turn setbacks into stepping stones. That's when you can really get better at what you do, and you can grow from it. Because look, we're not all perfect. Those of you that try to hold your sketching ability to a high standard, listen, you're going to suck, period. It's not going to look good sometimes, and that's okay. Because you got to look at the stuff that isn't good and go, how can I improve? If you're constantly told that you're good, especially at a young age, you're going to have no idea how to handle adversity when you're not that good anymore. Because remember, the saying goes, there's always somebody better than you out there. There is. It's hard to be the best in the world at anything. But, that's kind of getting off into a whole other side tangent there. Okay, so we've asked ourselves what we're missing. And also the other thing is, overcoming the stubbornness of asking yourself, what skills do I need to develop? How can I approach the problem from a different angle? Okay, so let's say that you're broke. All right, if you're broke, it's your fault that you're broke. There's nobody else to blame. Like when I've been broke in the past, it's my fault. I just spend money on dumb stuff that I don't need. And there's other things that I could have been doing in order to not be broke anymore. And I did those things. We all have to do that. So when it comes to drawing, if you feel like you constantly are not good, there's probably something else that you're not doing, but you're kind of ignoring or putting on the back burner. Raise your hand if you want to be a character concept artist and you've failed to study anatomy, so you just keep making up people sketches. It doesn't even have to deal with laziness. It's just you're stubborn. You think that what you know is all you need to know. All right, let's see where this drawing is going here. I'm also trying to give a cool little lesson here to follow too. So this creature that I'm drawing, it's definitely Lovecraftian. So if you're drawing along with me and you're drawing a Lovecraftian type creature with tentacles or whatever, one of the cool things about this style of drawing is you can pretty much put tentacles and teeth anywhere you want and it still looks otherworldly. So we'll see what happens. Putting a lot of claws and everything. It almost looks like a zygote, like a creature zygote or something. Okay, maybe we can put some feet down there. Actually, that'd be pretty nasty, actually. Okay, let's do that. Let's make it like a biped. Oh, I don't know if I messed it up or not. Okay, I might have to zoom out just a little bit, so you'll probably see it on the camera. Okay, there we go. So now you can see it. Okay, so it looks like the arms are actually just these gnarly appendages, and they're pretty sharp. Let's see where it goes. I don't want to stray too far away from today's lesson, so hopefully you're able to just relax, take a step back, and kind of ask yourself, what has been setting you back lately? It could be any number of things. We all go through personal stuff. So the other thing that I want you to notice is when you adopt a mindset, like a mindset shift, you have the power to choose how you respond to setbacks too. So like I mentioned before, when you just suddenly want to blame outside factors, there is merit to that. Sometimes there are things that are out of your control, but for the most part, it is under our control. I know I'm kind of getting into a broader life lesson here, but when it comes to artwork and always feeling stuck and like you're not getting better at your art, and I'm going to be blunt about this, it's mostly your fault. Just like it was my fault when I wasn't good at environment sketching. So I had to train myself and, have that discipline in order to get better at environment concept art. All right. The other thing is I love drawing with pen. So you can see that I'm drawing with pen now. This is a Bic. Here, let me see. Bic Ultra Round Stick Grip. I have an Amazon store or affiliate link store located right on my channel, so you guys can just jump in there. There's also links in the description below. It takes you straight to my Amazon affiliate link page. It's all of the art supplies that I use on a daily basis. Even my X-Acto pencil sharpener over there on my desk. Let's see if I move this down a little bit. Comment below if you've seen any really good creature movies lately. I know that I still need to see The Substance. I heard that movie was pretty crazy. I've seen Romulus. Loved Romulus. If there's anything else, like an obscure movie that really hasn't gotten a lot of publicity, but it's on Netflix or something, list it below. Oh, and the other thing is, before I forget, you know what time it is. It's time to name this creature. And I ask you, go in the comments and name this creature. I always love reading that stuff too. Get some pretty cool ones. And also some that are so goofy that it's awesome in itself, like Samantha. Does this look like a Samantha? Or maybe a Chuck? I don't know, maybe. All right, so what were we talking about before? We were talking about setbacks. So setbacks can help, and this is really just kind of conclude what I'm talking about. Setbacks can help you. It's just all about how you handle adversity once it actually happens. Because let's face it, we as people, as humans, we don't really grow until stuff goes wrong. If stuff goes right, we just get complacent. And we're not, shifting our views in order to deal with problems. But once we deal with problems, we get so good at shifting our views and getting better at it that those problems don't happen anymore, which then leads you to more happiness. So approach your artwork like that. If you know deep down that you keep hiding hands and feet when you're drawing characters because you suck at it, well, it's time for you to study hands and feet. I remember when I would draw characters, this is like back 7th grade, 8th grade, I would always find a way to hide the feet, and I was basically creating my own setback. I would hide the feet, and then I couldn't see it, or them, and there would be like some kind of mist or rock or other creature down by the feet, and it's like, oh, yep, there's my character, and I knew deep down I was hiding it. This thing is disgusting looking. It's crazy because I haven't drawn any tentacles yet. I just have this crazy array of hands. What in the world? Like in the middle here should be a big mouth, right? There's a mouth right here. There could be another mouth right there. But these are going really quick too. Like these lines. So I'm just going to do that. I know it sounds kind of cliche, but take a step back, look at all your setbacks in your artwork, and just realize that you can turn all the setbacks into masterpieces. You never know what's going to be your masterpiece. For those of you listening right now, ask yourself, and look at your art too, like, do you have that one piece that you're very proud of? Okay. We all pretty much do. We all pretty much have that one piece that we're super proud of. We just executed it with perfection from start to finish. Did you notice that when you were executing that particular artwork, you didn't care about anything else? It kind of just happened. And the artwork that you care a lot about, when you execute it, you get frustrated when it doesn't turn out. It ends up looking like crap. And then what do you want to do? You want to cross it out. You want to scratch it out of your sketchbook. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. And I encourage you to look at my other videos where I go over scribbling techniques, the importance of learning how to let your mind go and just have your thoughts flow freely when you're sketching. All of that plays a huge part into overcoming your setbacks. Because you can kind of approach life that same way too. Okay, when things seem down, okay, we all have friends. You might have family. If you don't have friends or family, take up a new hobby. Go out, keep busy, do all of those other things without really thinking too much about them. Just allow yourself to do them. And then all of a sudden your thought processes will change. So when it comes to drawing, try to tie in the life lessons here back to drawing. So when it comes to drawing, you can say like, okay, I know that I need to get better at anatomy, but for some weird reason, I have yet to study anatomy, and I don't know why. It's our brain's way of cautiously approaching new material. We are hardwired to focus on what is wrong versus what is right. You ever notice that? Just turn on your news. Just turn on the news. It's who killed who bombed who, how much money you lost, how much weight you've gained. And it's never, hey, this person saved a puppy, or hey, the sky was beautiful for the past week and a half. Like, nobody cares about that. So when it comes to artwork, it's always like, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do this, I can't do that. And you're creating your own misery. I hope I'm helping here. I know I can come off as kind of harsh sometimes, but to me, it's a necessary harshness. I feel like that's the only way we're going to learn. All right. When I'm looking at this creature now, I know that definitely a person could fit in this if it was a suit. So it'd probably be good for like a movie prop or something. And I'm just going to keep adding these crazy sharp appendages on the side just because it's so much fun. I'm going to ghost them in over here because the details over here aren't that important. But maybe we can put some smaller ones in here and smaller appendages. We're going to have to differentiate the ones in the front versus the ones in the back so we can add some depth in here. Because remember, I'm using a pen, so I can't shade and add depth perception. Atmospheric perspective by shading like I can with a pencil. It's a little different with ink. So you got to have a slightly lighter hand on this matter. Okay. There are some things that I want to share with you guys before we end this lesson today. One of them is, if you check the links in the description below, there's a couple that I want you to focus on. One is our Discord channel, Creature Design Workshop Discord. It's a Discord where people are joining every single day. It's a bustling community. We learn not only about creature design, but about drawing in general. Okay, we list or collect many different types of references. Like, there's a whole reference cache forum in there. We have personalized sketchbooks that people add to on a daily basis, weekly basis for their own personal scribbles. We have critique forums in there if you want to get better. And we have a lot of different ages in there too. There are people in there that are in their 70s, and there are people in there that are 14 years old. It doesn't matter. We're in there together to learn how to draw, and specifically creatures if you want to get better at that. The other thing that I want to mention is, I teach an online course called Creature Design for Film and Games at Computer Graphics Master Academy, and that link is in the description below and also the first pinned comment. I've been teaching for CGMA for 8 years now, and it's an 8-week course. You learn about the fundamentals of creature design, and it's something that I'm very, very passionate about because I've seen a lot of beginner students go through that course and turn into senior artists and modelers in the industry, and it's just really, really fun and humbling to see. Really happy for all of them. The other thing that I want to mention is I run a personalized mentorship. This is where I gear all the lessons towards you specifically, so no one person has the same type of lesson. My mentorship, if you sign up for it, it's on a rolling basis. So you sign up for it whenever you're ready. Now there is usually a monthly cap that I like to keep, so spots do fill up. And we start by having a consultation to see your short and long-term goals, followed by what companies that you can see yourself working for. And if you just want to be mentored to be better at drawing in general, for marketing, for selling your artwork, advertising, all of that stuff, we can specify it for you. Okay, I teach people how to even do props and environments, just try to pour my knowledge in the game industry into your brains. Okay, so please email me at bobbyrebholz@gmail.com. That is also listed in the pinned comment below, as well as the description. All right, and I want to thank everybody for watching me draw this today. Don't forget to share your own experiences with artistic setbacks in the comments below. I read every single comment, good and bad. So if you're looking for more inspiration and creative guidance, be sure to check out my other videos for more tips and tricks to help you overcome your artistic struggles. I try very hard to approach my lessons at a level-headed, down-to-earth, rational way, because you know me by now. I'm not gimmicky. I barely even edit my videos. I got a candle burning back here. You can hear the lawnmower sometimes out the window. I miss the good old days with me just teaching in a physical classroom and have students around me. I really miss that. So again, comment below. Give a like. Hey, you know what? Subscribe if you want. If you don't want to subscribe to me, that's fine. Hopefully you at least got something out of it. Okay. I wouldn't necessarily call this a masterpiece, but I do want to hear your names that you're going to give this creature. To me, it kind of feels like a fill. I don't know why. It just does. All right. Thanks, everybody. Till next time. Peace. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. All right, so grab your sketchbooks, especially if you have not touched your sketchbook for a very long time, or if you're visiting my channel for the first time, you have no idea why you're here, but you think you'd want to doodle for a little bit. So I'm taking in all skill levels. I'm going to teach you some really cool thumbnail tactics so that you can not only fill up a sketchbook, but also enjoy what you're drawing, so you don't have to worry about being perfect. Now I'm using a standard Bic ballpoint pen, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to doodle on some shapes here. Those of you that know me and know my channel, you are well aware that I'm going to be sketching some random shapes, and I'm going to be forming these shapes into either creatures, props, maybe some character helmets. Really, I'm just going to let the lines take me wherever they want to. All right, so if you're sketching along with me right now, keep everything nice and loose, and the pen strokes or the pencil strokes, depending on what you're using, be sure to keep a light hand. All right, now I'm not dragging my palm across the page at all. What I'm doing is I'm lightly gripping the pencil. I'm lightly gripping the pen. It's not a pencil. And I'm just slowly but surely putting down some shapes until I find something that I like. Now, I have gone Lovecraftian on this, and I'm actually kind of liking this one. I didn't know if I was going to like this at first, because I had this helmet shape, and I was thinking, okay, well, I'm probably going to be making like a turtle or some kind of creature shell, and it did turn into a shell. But then I found out, well, if I add in some tentacles, it's going to help ground it, because I wanted to be able to, draw the creature but have it touch the ground, and I did not want to use insect legs. Instead, these legs look like slugs. So we'll see how this goes. Okay, now whenever I sketch thumbnails, I have a small idea in mind of what I want the critter to be. If I'm doing creatures, if I'm doing helmets, if I'm doing weapons or characters or whatever, obviously I'll be thinking of that subject. But for this one, I knew that I wanted this to be an eyeless critter, and it kind of moseys around, not really sure about where its food source is going to be. But all of these tentacles, these feet, I guess you can call them, they're going to be touching the ground, and they're probably extra sensitive, and they're probably finding food sources as it walks along. This thing's probably no bigger than like a starfish or something. I don't know. This thing might even be underwater. As a matter of fact, why don't we draw some bubbles here? That would be kind of neat. I actually don't think I've done many aquatic creatures at all on my channel. Huh. Well, comment below if you would like to see me do some aquatic critters. I'm probably going to get a lot of yeses. Please do aquatic critters. Especially after playing games like Subnautica and all those really awesome games. Seeing Avatar, the movies and everything. I don't think that aquatic monsters really get enough love, even in cinema. It's mostly land-dwelling beasts with giant horns and things that look like dinosaurs. Rightfully so, because that's our frame of reference. That's what we have to go off of. Another technique that I want you guys to try is I want you to take the pen and I want you to lightly brush across the creature's body, whatever creature you're drawing. I don't want straight lines. Instead, zigzag them or do a bunch of figure eights. So what I mean by figure eights is if you practice over here to the side, you can slowly but surely add in a lot of figure eight shapes and then go back on each other, or watch them go back on each other. And what that does is it forms so many different types of textures very quickly. You have scales, you can have tree bark, you can have incredibly wrinkly skin, or whatever you want. All right, and then just go across the body to form a nice little texture, and then you can bump that texture out by finding small little areas that you think parts of the shell or parts of the skin are going to come out at us. And those are going to be the darker parts. Now, the next thing that I want you to do is, see this little ground plane that we drew, our critter? This creature needs to be grounded in a literal sense, because if it's touching the ground, we want it to feel connected. So I like to darken the areas where appendages or some kind of other body part or the subject matter is touching the ground, and then put lines on the creature and then the body fading off. So what I mean by fading off is thick to thin lines or short controlled bursts where you press harder and then release the pressure. You get better with this over time. Now I can't sit here and say, here, just do this, because that's, one, it's not helpful, and it's also annoying. I'm telling you, if you get your sketchbooks out just like this and you practice on the side, thick to thin, 500 lines every single morning for 30 straight days, that's going to help you be better. That I can guarantee you. Probably weren't expecting that number to enter this conversation, but I have to keep people on their toes. Okay, so now, this thing has actually turned out to be pretty neat. It's like a conch shell mixed with crustacean. Looks kind of ancient, but yet alien. The other thing, it's a really cool trick, so I'm going to finish putting in the little dark parts. Oh, also, I'm so sorry. I forgot to tell you. This thumbnail's small. And because it's small, and we're using a pen, so the shading is not quite the same as it is with a pencil. So we're going to have to control our shading just a little bit. So what I like doing is I like to do wispy marks over top of each other, very close to each other. And what that does is it offers a nice fade away from all the pen. There we go. We have to show some depth in here. So all of the limbs that are closest to us get a darker treatment, and all of the ones in the background that belong to the creature but are on the other side of the body, those are lighter. And then when you couple all those together, or bring all those together, maybe add in some plants like this, you can have some pretty neat depth. Now, if you want good contrast, you have to figure out what areas of your creatures or whatever you're drawing has the least amount of light penetrating the area. All right, so for example, inside the little leg holes, light really isn't getting in there. Now, just like fine arts, if you're painting, avoid black. Just like drawing, avoid black. There's still value even in all where there's light and even in shadows. So just be very careful about what you choose to have pure black, because it can backfire pretty quickly. Let's move on to our second critter. I'm kind of liking this whole Lovecraftian theme we got going on here, so I might do a couple more that are in that theme. And they're also quite aquatic. I'm kind of experimenting and keeping my prompt, well, I don't even know what I'm talking about. Okay, so we got a very strange shape going on here. It could be a shell, but one thing is for certain, it looks like this is another aquatic critter. So with that said, let's have a big opening in the front, and then several tentacles coming out, maybe 3. 3 is always a good number to have, especially in sci-fi. I don't know what it is about the number 3, but it's a psychologically pleasing number, and at the same time, there's something unnatural about it if we see groupings of 3 on creatures or even animals of Earth. Okay, so this is a very weird experiment for a creature, because most of them are going to have legs. But this particular one does not have legs. Instead, it has a bunch of tentacles going in different directions. And I'm going to have to piece together these body shapes differently than I did over there. I was a little bit more confident in this design just because it's more confined and compact. It's like a crab, it's like a turtle, and the legs are very simple. This one, it's more, it's floating. It might be swimming. I'm not sure yet. And I'm kind of just making this up as I go, but trying my best to think about aquatic life that I have studied. So I'm trying to pull my, some reference images from my head, and I'm not really sure which ones I want to pull from, just from images that I've seen over the years and different animals that I've studied. And I'm probably butchering some of the ideas that I have in my mind while putting it on paper. We're doing a creature that doesn't live on Earth, so I kind of have a little bit more creative freedom. All right, so if you're drawing along with me, comment below, let me know what you're working on. If you're doing something really crazy. I love getting the messages and hearing from people that have drawn for the first time in years. It's so cool to know that people are having their passions reignited in drawing and in art. And I just want, that's the whole reason I'm doing this. I'm doing this so that you guys become more confident in your sketching choices. All right, nobody's here to judge you. All right, if somebody says that you are not good and they're doing it with not your best intentions at heart, then forget them. Okay, they're just mad at themselves because they haven't accomplished what they wanted to do. And let's face it, drawing is not easy. If you want to master drawing, you have to become obsessed with drawing. You can't just lollygag around in anything and expect to be good at it. I just kind of did a happy accident there. I was kind of bored myself with the things hanging off of the head, or the shell or whatever you want to call it. But I'm glad I added those little sections in because it's putting a nice texture in there, and it's also breaking up that surface, so that's good. If you're drawing a creature and it has a big area where not a lot of stuff is happening, put some spikes in there, put something interesting in there, like some tentacles or maybe an extra limb, something cool. And also think about the functionality of your creature. This is something I teach in my Creature Design for Film and Games course. Okay, if you're interested in signing up for that, I've been teaching that course for 8 years now at the Computer Graphics Master Academy. So check the link in the description below and the pinned comment. I'm currently wrapping up winter term, and then spring term is right around the corner. Early signups have already happened. We do cap the classroom at 20. Okay, so those could fill up pretty quickly, and I do want to mention that they fill up faster in the springtime. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the weather. Maybe more people want to learn more in the winter time. I don't know. There we go. Okay, now I'm happy with it. I was not happy with that drawing. As a matter of fact, I almost gave up on it, but my inner voice said, Bobby, you literally have to practice what you preach, man. Telling everybody happy accidents and then accept your failures, and here I am thinking I failed at that drawing and I want to skip it, and I'm like, no, I cannot skip it on this video. That would make me a hypocrite, and I don't want to do that. So, and boy, would I get called out in the comments. All right. All these little messy doodles going somewhere. Oh, and there definitely needs to be more tentacles. As a matter of fact, why don't we put some that are almost touching the ground? Maybe they are touching the ground, but way in the background. So maybe this creature is actually way bigger than we thought. If that's the case, not cased. If that's the case, then these front tentacles have to be darker so that the values are different. There we go. It's all about contrasting values. If you guys want a quick 101 value lesson here, remember this. Anytime you're shading a drawing, whether it's pen, whether it's pencil, please make sure that any of the values that you're putting in your image has contrasting values right next to it. All right? So, for example, I just put shading on that weird outcropping of shell, but I left this white. There's contrast. So now I know that this is growing in the shadow and or behind this part, and I'm leaving that. That's contrast. We know that this is deep set because the arms are coming out of a shell. How? Because it's so dark in there that there's no light. That's what I'm talking about. That is contrast. And I could keep going with this too, but I think what I'll do is I'll fade on some ground, and then, oh, let's put in little people. You know, that could be Roger. And then this one, that guy's small, so I mean, I could put a human foot in there, but I don't want to make it too complicated. You know, and then we can start on the third one. Will I finish the third one? I don't know. But one thing that I do like is that if I start an image, and maybe those of you watching have started the exact same image or something that's like it, I like you to finish the creature. So what would it look like for you? There, it looks like it is a fish. So let's put some really weird fins on here. Yeah, there we go. I am a firm believer in extraterrestrial life. I think it is out there. Are there intelligent beings out there? I do think so. But I also think that there are strange things swimming around, you know, and on different planets. Maybe they're filled with different liquids, and I mean, we already know that they are, like, filled with different liquids. We got methane lakes, got I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff. I don't know where I was going with that, but the term alien just slipped in my mind, and I like talking about space because I'm a space geek. I read up about James Webb Telescope all the time. I love the discoveries. It's seeing farther into space than we ever thought possible, and it's really, 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 really close to proving the Big Bang as true. So there's a lot of stuff happening, and with NASA and with new rockets being made, new probes, like that new probe that flew within like 1,000,000 miles of the sun. It's crazy, absolutely crazy what we can do. So if you found today's lesson helpful, it's more of just a draw session. That's the name of my channel, guys. Come on. This is the essence of what I like doing. All right, here's my other page. It's just doodling like this. I want to wake you guys up from your drawing slumber. Okay, if you are not feeling confident about your drawings, stop that. Slap yourself. Just be like, no, I'm going to create something today and I'm going to love it. If I hate it, it's okay. Let's move on to the next one. Check the pinned comment below for important links, especially to our Creature Design Workshop Discord. And it's not just creature design. If you're interested in my mentorship, please email me at bobbyrebholtz@gmail.com. There you go. Hopefully you found today helpful. Till next time, everybody. Peace. Hey everybody, I'm really excited about tonight's lesson. So the past couple videos, what I've been doing is showing you guys how to scribble and then take all of your thumbnails, add marker, add ballpoint pen, and also pencil to create something really unique while also being, rather loose with it. So I thought today, why not show you how to take your existing scribble and polishing that exact sketch with just a marker. You can see that I put some black cast shadows here, so I'll show you exactly how I did that. The other lessons involved taking this version and then doing a duplicate while doing a more polished version of that. So this is, you can take original scribbles and just polish them up as is. All right, so I'm just taking a standard Bic ballpoint and I'm going to scribble on some shapes here. I seem to be getting a lot of positive feedback whenever I do these random critters, and I think in this particular lesson every single critter is going to have ears because I've noticed I haven't really been drawing a lot of ears, so why not play with these a little bit, because it does offer a really unique solution to a lot of silhouettes. It's funny, on my back patio I have this spider. It's just a garden spider. That sucker has been in my door frame for probably 3 months now. I didn't do anything to it. I love watching that thing. It's slowly become my pet. The thing has not died, and it has definitely gotten down to about 5 or 6 degrees in a couple of nights the past month. And I thought it died, it was curling up. And then I was like, nope. So I took a really good look at the spider and I figured out, did a little research. Those garden spiders can last 2 years in one spot, just as long as they eat. So I've been checking up on my little pet spider in the back, and I got the idea for this one just because of the head. Okay, so you can see, if you're drawing along with me too, you're scribbling and you start to see some shapes emerge. I'm starting to see some really cool opportunities in here where some of the limbs are pretty major. All right, so we got that little crazy shape here. I'm just going to hint at where the mouth is, but I'm not going to pay too much attention to it yet. What I am going to do is I'm going to stop and I'm going to look at this and go, where do I know the shadows are going to exist? So remember in my past lessons where if you have if you have a light source like this, so obviously if you follow that down, the highlight's going to be here, the speck highlight or whatever you're putting it on. And then the cast shadow is going to be directly under it. So when you do these thumbnail sketches, you can indicate the shadow with just a darker line without actually having to shade too much in there. Now make sure those joints are believable. When in doubt, do a spider shape. Okay, so this is kind of a mixture of a bat and a spider, so it's pretty creepy. You know what? Why don't we add another ear? Maybe it's got double the hearing. Can't really see it right there. Okay, so how would I just take this sketch and polish it up? Well, I'm going to take a good old-fashioned Prismacolor. I'm going to take the skinny end, and I'm going to very carefully outline where I know the cast shadow is going to be underneath. But I'm going to be careful with this. I'm going to be strategic, because I know that there's going to be a cast shadow under there from the body. Now, look at this drawing and figure out where else would I know that a cast shadow would be. Well, obviously the inside of the ear on the top. Because if the light's coming in this way, you know, it's over here. This tip right here will probably cast some shadow on the ear. This is coming outwards, so that means it's probably going to be a light catcher. This earlobe is casting a shadow on top of that ear, while all of these, well, this one especially, maybe that one's casting a shadow on the bottom. So you have the very faint indication of an ear, and then the under chin part. I hope I don't make a smiley face, because that would be unfortunate. This is not supposed to be friendly. So actually that face is probably coming out far enough to where the cast shadow is going to be covering that. Okay, and under here. So it looks like that's all going to be in shadow. Possibly. I'm going to stop right there, and then I'm going to go back with my pen, and then I'm just going to darken up the tips of these spider legs with quick bursts, so thick to thin lines, like this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the pen, and I'm going to do circular motions until I pinpoint a speck highlight on each eyeball. So I'm just going to move the pen in until I get a tiny little spot. There we go. You want those eyes to show up. So whenever you're doing creature design, just make sure that you put the majority of the emphasis near the mouth and the eyes, because the face is a place where we tend to look at most, especially for characters. When it comes to creatures and looking at a multi-eyed spider bat like this, you can probably focus on either one of those eyes. I don't know. Alright, so I'm just taking my pen and I'm just going to lightly brush up some hatching going up the leg. Same thing with this one. Okay, but we are not done yet. Oh no. So instead of taking my pen and brushing in hatching over here, I'm just going to quickly outline very lightly where I think the body shadow is going to be on the ground. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. Okay, because then what I want to do is I'm going to take my marker, not the fat end, I'm going to take the skinny end, and I'm going to very carefully color all that in pure black. Right, like that. These don't have to be perfect, but you do have to pay attention to make sure that the shape is something that you stayed with. There we go. All right, and I'm going to do the same thing to this one. So I'm just going to go underneath the toenails a little bit, just to show some of the white of the toenail poking through the shadow. A little bit over here on the flat side. So I'm going to stop, and then maybe a little bit over here, and then that's it. So this is how you essentially polish a scribble. Pure black, whether it's pen, marker, whatever you're using, has a lot of power in this type of lesson. So without further ado, let's put some color in there. I'm looking at my color set over here, and I'm going to try to get something that I normally don't use. How about this? This actually looks like a forest green. I don't know how this is going to turn out, so let's see. Let's put it on the... Nope, that does not look good. It's a little too dark. I didn't know how that was going to look. It was kind of a risk. I got one. Put a little orange right in here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a nice stripe going down the center of the face and all the way up the forehead to put some, some oomph to it. And I think that's kind of cool. So I'm going to duplicate some of that fiery shape going down those legs. and then I'm going to stop because, oh, you know what? Maybe the ear tip. This helps bring it all together. That thing's pretty wicked. I'm not going to lie. That thing's pretty wicked. All right, let's move on to another scribble. So hopefully you're following along with me. If you're following along, I would love to see what you all are working on. So if you have time, you can, stroll on over to our Discord. It's our Creature Design Workshop Discord, and free to join it. So please just tell us what you're working on. Post in the Sketchbook forum. We have critique forums. We have so many places where you guys can post your work and get feedback. So right away, I kind of drew a dog. I think the head, it reminds me of the alien in 10 Cloverfield Lane. Maybe I was subconsciously thinking of that before I did it. Very fast. So I put some motion in the actual dog creature, mainly because I wanted to show it trying to move on my paper. That's something we used. That's a technique that we used in transportation design back in the day in university, where we would draw these concept cars, and we wanted the concept cars to look like they were moving on the paper. It's very important to put energy into your sketches. This is why whenever I draw, you'll notice that some thick to thin lines are freely exiting my sketch. Well, not exiting it because they're a part of it. But if I'm going down this back and I see this tail, I'll just flick it off there so it looks like motion. Okay, that's why it's really important to have good line weight, thick to thin, like that. Because eventually I'm going to put some marker down there. I got to put the feet. Just an indication of the feet. They don't have to be anything special. Just trying to keep it simple, maybe like a dog-like foot. There we go. Definitely the underbelly of the tail. I don't think tails have underbelly. I think it's just the bottom of the tail. There's the gut. Okay. Now, the next spot is right down here where the shadow will exist on the ground. Just put a slight flat spot. Now I'm going to take the marker and just watch how this all comes together, even though this is super loose. All right, so I want to put in a little bit of style here, so maybe I'll go up the neck some, color that in black. I will color this belly in right here where the torso is. Definitely this part. That's behind the other legs. And then what I'm going to do is carefully follow this tail back up, get a little thicker with it down by the head of the tail where it comes out of the hip. Now down here at the tip, I can do a couple things. I can add to the tail, because this thing, the marker only gets so skinny before it doesn't really help you anymore. Because of the nature of the legs and they're being in front, I don't really want to add too much marker left. What I will do is I'll put the flat spot right inside the legs for the cast shadow, and I'm going to leave some of the paper tone under the foot to make it look like it belongs in that atmosphere or the environment. So now it looks like it's attached to the ground. I'm going to take my pen again, and now I'm going to put in some ears. This one's rather big. It's almost like a desert dog in Africa. Okay, but maybe I'll put the eye closer to the front. Okay, very, very docile looking, and almost like, man, it's almost like a ferret too. Let's put some hair back there. I don't put a lot of fur on my creatures, but some of them it's warranted. Some of them just look like they need fur, so I think I'm going to do that. All right, and then another cool technique, something that I didn't show you guys before, is wherever the black marker is, take your pen and lightly put some hatch shading coming up off of it. Right there. So it's a good idea to match the color. You don't want to do like blue ink with black. What this does is it looks like it's part of the original black shadow, and you did it all with one tool. Now obviously I can't cheat that. You're watching me do it, but it's kind of neat to try. I'll put in some anatomy here to make it look like each leg has its own hip. Okay, and then I might put in some extra fur on the back here. Now remember what I did up here to the spider legs. I'm going to do the same thing here, so I'm just going to add some darker tone with the pen and then move up the leg and lighten it. Like this. I'm going to come back over here and do the same, and then do the same over here. Okay, and then try to put some more detail into the head area. It's so small right there that I'm not really sure if we can even make anything distinct. And that's okay. Maybe it's supposed to be mysterious, but I do know a color that I think I want to use. I want to use a brownish color because I feel it's more earth tone. This creature just feels more earth-like, you know, coloring similar to a hyena or maybe a meerkat. So there's like a darker brown right there. And I think what would be neat, I'll take a little bit lighter one, maybe this tannish color. Okay, and I think, oh, that's not tan. Ooh, what in the world is happening? Hold on a sec. This one might be good. It's not really a tan, but I think it's light enough to give me something cool. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that looks desertish. Matter of fact, let's just do that entire neck right there, part of the head. All right, and then we'll hint at it on that hip, hint at it on that hip, and then down the tail. Yeah, that looks very desertish, but I don't want to get too messy, so I think I might have to color all of that in so it looks cohesive. That looks decent. Hey, maybe that'll blend in with the planet that it lives on. Who knows? But without further ado, let's number these. 1, 2, 3. Gotta make sure I'm not drawing crooked too. Let's move on. So let's go over here. Let's do something aquatic. Okay, so maybe like a giant fish. A very crazy looking one, I don't know. Maybe something that floats. I mean, those sunfish are crazy looking. Maybe the eyes all the way down here. But then the fin is right up here, and then it's got a second set right here. And then maybe the look at that mouth. That is so wickedly bad. What is going on here? It's like a whale, but not really. Oh, that poor thing. It's about as ugly as a blobfish. I've actually had people argue with me on that. They've commented, I don't know where I drew it, but I said a blobfish is ugly. And they've argued with me saying that no, they're not ugly. That's just the way that media portrays them through photos and stuff. And I'm like, I've seen the photos. That's why I think they're ugly. It's okay if a fish is ugly, you know? There's some ugly animals out there. There really are. They even have contests to see who has the ugliest dog in the world. Google that. Google ugliest dog in the world. They're proud of it too. It's pretty funny. Okay, it probably needs gills. I don't think this thing lives very long either. But why don't we put, here, maybe you can get it in here. Let's put some fin in the back, like this. Okay, there we go. So this thing is not very, how should I put this, loved by its community. You know, it's probably the ugly duckling at the bottom of the ocean. But that's okay, we're going to spruce this ugly duckling up. Alright, that thing is really gross. I don't know how I'm going to do the cast shadow on this. Let's find out. Let's do black. Okay, let's figure out where indeed a cast shadow would be. And obviously the big protruding chin coming out is going to have one right there. Alright, so see how careful I was on that. And I'm going over my pen work just because it doesn't matter. We got that. We definitely have this ear. Okay, so we want to put that right there. Now, there's no scientific, accurate way to put marker down for a cast shadow right now. I'm not worried about that. So if you're wondering, how are you getting these shapes for the cast shadows? I'm just trying to imagine what the shapes look like if they're, you know, casting a shadow on a rounded surface or a flat surface of this animal. That's all. Oh, yeah, and I promised it has an ear too. So this thing has an ear. It was going to be a fin, but it's not anymore. I mean, I could put it in, yeah, let's just do that. So that's the inside of the fin. Oh man. Did I just mess that up? I don't know. Maybe the shadow is a little bit too exaggerated right there. But you know what? That's okay, because maybe this creature casts that type of shadow. There we go. All right, so even with that, I will put in a slight outline to the body, thick to thin lines and controlled bursts, like this. Not really caring too much about where I'm putting things. Oh yeah, look at that big eye. Should it have tropical colors? I think so. Why don't we do something really, really crazy and put a strong blue in there? Okay guys, this is the moment of truth. I don't know how this is going to look. Okay, it's going to go up the head, and then maybe we can put in some cool little stripes near the eye, going down the face, and then maybe over here towards the ear. Can't believe this thing has an ear. Maybe the whole back of the head is blue. Yeah, why don't we just do that? Back of that whole body part. One more thing. Let's put an accent color. Let's do yellow. Actually, no. Yeah, let's do yellow. Why not? I think it'll show up on moleskin. Let's try it. But you got to use this sparingly. So the yellow, I think it'll work right there. That's it. Maybe some in between there, and then that's it. I don't want any more yellow. And that is our freakish underwater creature. So you can see here that if you just take some scribbles, neither one of them took too long. But in doing this technique, you were able to get some pretty cool sketches out. Now, none of these are finalized, but you can take the pen and you can really start putting in some details on some areas where you're excited about. You know, I always tell my students that if you're having a bunch of thumbnails and you're having trouble figuring out which ones you want to take to the next level and polish up, it's a good idea to figure out, hey, which one is my gut telling me that I want to add detail to? Which one is my eye drawn to all the time? And chances are, that's your subconscious telling you, I really like that one. If you found today's lesson helpful, I can give you some really cool things to think about. One, we have a Discord, Creature Design Workshop Discord. Free to join. It's a bustling community. There's a lot of people sharing their knowledge about the industry. We take all skill levels too. There's beginner, novice, advanced artists in there. We're all sharing doodles and references that we have. We even share pics about our studios and how those are coming along. And I also run a private mentorship, and I take all skill levels in that. So if you are a seasoned pro and you just want to brush up on your sketching ability, that's cool. Or if you're a complete noob and you can barely draw a cube, I also take in complete beginners too. And if you are interested in my online creature design course, Creature Design for Film and Games, please check the links in the description below for that too. And I want to thank everybody for watching today, and I'll see you next time. Peace. Alrighty, grab your sketchbooks because we are doodling tonight, or this morning, this afternoon, whatever time of day it is for you. I am sketching at night. I record all my videos at night just because I feel like after doing my work for the day when I'm working for clients, I can unwind and just kind of focus on drawing some beasts and critters, and you know, it's just a lot of fun. So it was funny, I was looking through my stack of sketchbooks and I'm starting to run out of space. But I found this one. It's by 3D Total. 3D Total has been an amazing client of mine. I've been working for them, you know, for the better part of a decade. I contributed to some sketching from imagination books, you know, like dark arts, sci-fi, creatures and monsters. So those of you that own those books, you probably saw my work in there. They just do amazing quality, and they always give me some kind of little fun gift. You know, I got some male and female models that I can use over here that I can set up on my desk for anatomy. You give me these little sketchbooks to doodle in. So 3D Total, if you are watching right now, I miss you guys. If you have a sketchbook out right now, it doesn't matter what type of paper you use. It doesn't matter what you're drawing with. I am using a Bic ballpoint pen, but if you seriously have a number 2 pencil, you can go ahead and use that. Or if you have one of these that I got from my son's kindergarten class when he was in kindergarten, that also works. So just bust out some really cool utensil or some cool tools and let's have at it. So here I'm drawing a little beast by laying down some really fast gestural lines. Now, because the sketchbook is actually smaller, I believe it's 5x7, maybe 5x7.5. The sketches are actually much larger on the page, because you know how my videos in thumbnail sketching go, because I have more room and I just start plugging them in there. I'm not really sure how this creature is going to go, but I'm kind of liking this really crazy row of spikes here. So it might be this big slug-like creature. Wouldn't that be kind of neat? Maybe it's crawling across the ground or sliding across the ground, and maybe under here is a mouth. Maybe there's some sharp teeth hanging down. It's like a big mouth. Asymmetrical teeth. I don't know, let's see what happens. The point I'm getting at is that it doesn't matter what tools you're using, doesn't matter what type of paper you're using. What matters is you are able to open up a sketchbook, try to clear your mind, don't have a set idea in your head, maybe a little one, and just have fun drawing. Just have fun. You know, a lot of times aspiring concept artists, well, I take that back. Just aspiring artists in general, you know, folks that just want to get good at drawing, they're thinking too hard about perfecting everything that you're putting down. And that's what's going to hinder your progress if you continue to do that. Now, yes, it's a little easier said than done. I mean, we're artists. We tend to obsess about the things that we're sketching. But the point I'm getting at is if you start throwing lines down on your page at the very beginning, instead of worrying too much about the entire image and what it's going to look like when it's over, just let it build up. Just let it build up. You have to learn patience, and you have to learn how to layer these things on. Things as in markings and, you know, shading and whatever else is going to go in your sketches. Like here, I'm just relaxed and I'm just having fun putting in some random sharp teeth. You know, this probably could be a big mouth here. Before I started this video and I saw that sketchbook, I was like, okay, well, I know I'm going to do a critter, but that's about as far as it's going to go. I did envision a row of spikes. That was the first thing in my mind even before I started the drawing. But that's seriously it. I didn't know how they were going to be aligned. I just started plugging my lines down, and I wasn't even hoping for the best. I was just seeing what was going to happen. Are there things that I would immediately change about this sketch? Well, yeah. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, we as artists are never happy about what we're drawing. It takes a lot for us to put something down and go, you know what? I would not change that. And that's after we erase and erase and erase and sketch something for 5.5 hours. Speaking of that, I do have a drawing coming up where I will be sketching something for a full 5 hours. I will record everything, and I will edit very little of it. I don't really edit my videos anyway. I'm trying to be as pure as I can with my channel, and hey, you know, there's nothing against folks that edit their videos. No, it's awesome. I've been approached by a lot of, you know, video editors, both through email and online, be like, hey, you should edit your shorts, or you should edit your videos. And you know, when I look at the way that I'm teaching this stuff, I'm just thinking, because I taught in person before, in classrooms, I've had impromptu sketch sessions, and I just remember students coming in between classes, or if they're done for the day, they just go get their sketchbooks and they just chill with me at the table, and they just start drawing. So it's kind of like what I want to do with this channel. I just want it to be like you're walking in a room, you know, you're at school or college or whatever, your studio, and your classes are out for the day, and you go back to the building because you need to study, and all of a sudden somebody's in that room and they're drawing or they're reading, and what do you naturally want to do? You just want to go chill with them, you know, especially if they're doodling. Those of you in art school right now that are attending, you know, comment below and let me know if that's what happens to you. I remember that happened to me all the time. We would get our studio times done. I think the latest in the day that we ever had studio, what was it, like 6 o'clock maybe, and we were done. But we always came back to studio in the evening times just because we drew better at night. We would get our Red Bull ready. Yeah, my friends that went to University of Cincinnati with me that are listening right now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. One of my friends / classmates, the sister was the regional rep for Red Bull, and she would just bring cases of Red Bull for us every week, and we would just drink it at night because we were up until 2 or 3 in the morning just drawing. I remember, I think I've told you this story before, but I'm the one that supplied the subwoofer and the speaker systems, so I brought in a whole stack of DVDs. Yes, we watched DVD. This was early 2000s, folks, like 2003, 2007. You know, we put on Predator, we put on Aliens, Mad Max, like all those movies, and we started them at 10 p.m. And we had our little projector screen, so while we were drawing, you know, we had those going in the background. And if we weren't watching a movie, we would just be cranking up music. So I listen to EDM, so I draw better if I'm just listening to fast techno and just going to town. You know, I was in transportation design, so that's what we did. But we would listen to other stuff too. I mean, man, we were cranking up Rammstein, we were cranking up, you know, we had R&B on, we had all kinds of stuff. I don't think anybody played country. I can't remember if anybody did. I think we only stuck to a couple genres. I don't even think we played pop, but could be wrong. I mean, that was what, 18 years ago? 19, 20 years ago we were in that studio. Oh man. So you can see that I'm just throwing lines down. Now this is a smaller sketch pad. These little portable sketch pads, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't have to be from 3D Total. Just go to your local store and see if you can find something to doodle in, like a pocket sketchbook. And that's what I wanted to show you guys today here. I mean, this really is a pocket sketchbook. And they're really convenient too. If you just go in public and you need to draw or practice drawing figures, you know, gestures, like if you're at Starbucks, if you're at some kind of cafe, weather permitting, you can sit outside or whatever, just start drawing people. If you're on the subway, it's really, really good to use. I'm trying to keep this nice and light and loose here. This really is a very big, well-protected slug. So much so that I believe at the ends of this large face shape, we're going to have another spike coming down here and then one on the other side. And I'm putting a little bit more detail in today so you guys can see me just sketch this thing from scratch. Wanted to give you guys a little bit, something a little different than an insect, because this is definitely not an insect. It's more of a big beast than anything. It's a slimy slug. Could be a boss character, could be, you know, something just from dark fantasy. I would like to hear some stories from some of you if you have any. If you You know, if you find that sketching at nighttime is easier for you, you know, explain why. For me, there's just something about the mind opening up at nighttime, and I really do think it's cosmic. Let's continue to add some fun details to this. Our little slug friend. Actually, not a little slug friend. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put a little human in here just to show you all how big our slug friend actually is. A little backpack on there. This human has been stopped in their tracks, and they have no idea what to do next. There has not been an attack yet, but instead, it's kind of like a stare down. Let's make this a little scene, you know? Put some rocks over here. Maybe like an outcropping of rocks and some plants next to it. These are the slug's feelers. So maybe they can be hanging from those very large shapes on the right or left. And I'm treating this just like I would with a pencil. Just very light, just wisping some shapes on. But I don't want to be clean about the surface texture. I will overlap very light lines until it gets so thick that that forms its own texture. Okay, when in doubt, add spikes, right? We could just keep going like this. Hopefully you're learning something too. If you're drawing along with me, if all you needed was just a little push, we're doing it. Okay, we got our little grouping of plants here. So there's going to be no arms or legs on this big slug creature. Instead, just a faint hint of the giant body in the back. Okay, and I'm going to place some darker lines around anything in the front that I need to draw attention to. I think the thing that's going to draw the most attention is that mouth. So maybe I'll just color the inside of the mouth in just jet black with the ink, but I'm not going to go straight across. Like, I'm not going to keep this even between the teeth because there's muscle in there. There's different places inside there. The tongue, there could be different muscular shapes in there, different appendages that we have yet to see. But what I'm trying to do is put some black right next to the teeth that I want to be poking out. Because you have to be careful with the pen. You don't want to go overboard with it. So I'm just tilting the pen to the side just a little bit, and I'm keeping every little line that I make very close together, and I'm brushing the pen strokes across the page. I'm not pushing hard at all. And now I'm going to come backwards towards the mouth, and I'm going to push. I'm feathering the markings on. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it like this. Okay, and then I'm going to go at a different angle. So this technique that I'm using when I'm just brushing the pen strokes on, this really helps control. I mean, those of you that are drawing and are just learning how to use a pen when you shade, you probably have noticed that sometimes if you try to shade back and forth like a pencil, the strokes will show up much more because you got to get so much more closer with the pen. Well, when you brush it on, it allows you to make the stroke, lift it up and relax, lift it up, lift it up, lift it up, and just apply it over and over again. But this does require a soft touch. And I have been asked a lot about how do you make all of your lines so light? And the answer is, I don't push hard. It may be kind of a smart answer, you know, like a smart mouth answer, and it's totally not intended for that to come off like that. But there's no secret sauce to making light lines, medium lines, and dark lines. You just push harder, then you release some of the pressure to get the medium line, and then you release even more pressure to get the light line. That's it. And yeah, it's easier said than done. However, when you get good at applying pressure and releasing pressure and just controlling that pencil or that pen that you're using, you'll be able to draw an entire image with just one pencil. And that's the ultimate goal, right? I mean, who wants to spend money and go to the store and buy a whole pack of pencils to draw one drawing? Just do it with one pencil. That's the goal. That's why I use 4B. Because one, it's a B, and the graphite for Bs, they can get darker and there's more texture. 2, 4 is pretty much in the middle of the Bs that you need to use anyway, so you can get light and dark with it. I love them. Now, I will say that you can get really dark with a 6B and a 7B, but you're venturing into charcoal territory at that point. And that graphite's so soft that, yeah, I mean, you might as well just use a black Prismacolor then, because it's going to look really dark. And they're nice, don't get me wrong, they're nice, but they're going to be really dark. So what I'm doing here is I'm just finding spots where the shadow can definitely exist. I'm making each side of this face asymmetrical. Try to keep my hand out of the way here so you guys can see what I'm doing. Those little tentacles coming down, I guess feelers, those, like that, you can see some of the head right underneath it, and that's going to be pure darkness, because we want that contrast to really show up, but we don't want it to ruin the facial spikes. We just want it to show up just enough to where it's, you know, it's there. If you don't know what gestural lines are, a gesture is drawing a figure or drawing a form while it's in motion in a specific amount of time. So I'm drawing quickly. This creature is moving per se. I mean, yeah, these two characters are at a standstill, but it's moving. And then you know, I just want to do it quickly. And one of the things about creature design that I feel is the most important out of anything. Yes, you're going to have to study animal anatomy to get this to look right, but the skulls, like the skull of it. So I'm thinking about what the bone structure looks like for this crazy thing. So you can see here at the base of each of these head spikes, do you see how I'm getting thick with the base of it? It almost looks like there's a protrusion coming out and then the spike is growing out of the protrusion. That's because for you as the viewer, I want you all to look at this and go, huh, okay, so there's that big spike. Oh, we can see how it grows out of that. There's bone under there. And then there's the skull, because the teeth have to grow out of it, etc. Always think about how things will grow out of the skin whenever you do creatures, instead of just placing random spikes on it because you think they look cool. If you're drawing a creature right now and it probably has random spikes on there, what can you do to the base of those spikes to make it look like they're actually growing from the skin? Now what I'm doing is I'm placing some contour lines across the body, just very light. I want to keep everything over here, like the spikes and the face and everything, in the foreground. Okay, this is the selling point of the critter. It's weird, like when I say critter, critter makes it seem like it's small, and this thing isn't small. So we see how big it is to the human being right down there. Okay, and then here, you know, I'm adding some thickness to the neck. I think that's what I was doing before. And I'm keeping these lines very light. You see what's happening now. As I wisp these lines across the page, we can start to see that the lines are actually so close together that I'm adding a texture to it. It's almost like I'm shading. And I'm not sitting here going, okay, well, I got to shade this spot. No, I'm just letting the lines happen, but I'm also following the contours of the body because the body is pretty thick. It's almost like the graboids and Tremors. Those of you that have seen that movie, you know what I'm talking about. And then the skull structure, I think what I'll do is I'll put some cracks in the skin. I also need to darken the base of the horns, just so there's enough contrast between the skin and the actual horn. This thing won't have much of a core shadow around these two big parts of the skull coming off, but they will have some shadow to show that the surface is rounded. Hey, I hope you guys are enjoying this lesson. It's a little different than normal. You haven't seen me sketch a creature this long for a while now. I do promise that I have a long sketch video coming up. I am super excited about it. I'll tell you a little bit about it now, just to entice you on purpose because I'm evil. But it will be roughly 5 hours, virtually unedited. So it's going to be a long one. You know, I'll have timestamps and everything, but no music, nothing like that. Just me, just my pencil, my sketchbook, and then talking to you guys. I'm not even going to time lapse it. So what I try to do whenever I do that, I have done it before. I've actually recorded several of them, but I've just never posted them as videos. But in real life, I have led drawing workshops where I would draw for the attendees coming in. And that's essentially what I'm going to be doing for you guys, except that it's going to be on YouTube. I'm really excited about it too. So you can see my process from start to finish. And the next time I show you one of my fully illustrated pencil drawings, you'll get to see how I start those from absolute scratch, just a blank page. There's going to be no gimmicks, no fancy equipment, nothing. Torgem Studio Light, a pencil, and then my Canon camera that I'm using right now. I really don't have a fancy setup for my drawings. I don't want a fancy setup. Maybe at some point, but you know, right now I just plop the warm light on my sketch pads and go to town. Okay, there we go. So what I'll do now, this is a cool little trick. So if you have a ground plane like this, and then you have the body of your creature or whatever you're drawing, and the body of it is touching the ground, there are going to be specific spots where light is not touching. So tiny little spot in here I'm going to make dark and then leave it. And then over here, if the body of the creature is touching the ground and then the ground starts, get darker right where the ground and the body meet and then fade those off. And it's a cool little effect because it looks like the creature actually belongs to that atmosphere. It belongs to that ground. It's a really neat effect. Like the skin folds that I'm drawing right here touching the ground, it starts dark and I'm going thick to thin as I'm moving upwards. I don't want to dip the skin past the ground because it'll ruin the flatness of it. Because then it will look like the ground is see-through, and I don't want that. This is also a play up on contrast, because if I don't have shadow underneath the body here, then the jaw gets to be darker, because the jaw is really the focal point. I'm not necessarily sure that I was even successful in this jaw design. Now, looking back on it, yes, I would definitely want to change it. But, you know, that's just me being a perfectionist and wanting to correct my own work. And I don't want to overdo it or anything. Oh, I hear a siren in the background. Can't have one of my videos recording without the obligatory siren. So you can see all of the overlapping lines now. I have been slowly but surely layering these on as I've been talking to you guys about this sketch. And hopefully you've learned something as you just watch me doodle the face. So this has been so much fun. Thank you all for tuning in and watching this. So to talk about some of the atmosphere and what I like doing for the ground, just to give it a cool little environment, is I'll put some pebbles or some rock formations that are closer to us, just to make it seem like we're standing there witnessing these two characters talk to each other. And maybe put like a bush or a plant or something over here on this side. Notice how dark I'm getting with this. I'm going directly over the creature. That's because it's closer to us, that's all. And then if you want to have this blend in with the environment, the base of the plant, it's no different than drawing hair coming off of skin. At the base of it, you draw some wispy marks applying thick to thin lines, but in very short controlled bursts like this, and you can bleed it into the dirt. So what that does is it smooths it out, and it feels like it's growing from the dirt. You see how fuzzy that looks now? It didn't look like that before. So that's a cool little trick. And then perspective wise, I'm going to draw maybe some cracks or some little cracks and valleys in the dirt coming at us. So it makes it seem like it's going towards a vanishing point. You know, down here, we'll fade up some of the shadow from the creature onto the belly. See these short little bursts that I'm using? That's what I want to keep in there. Those are very important. It's a very important technique to be able to do that, and it's easier said than done. So I want you guys to practice that after you watch this video. Okay, regardless of what you're drawing right now, practice those short controlled bursts with the pen. So much easier said than done. I get it. When I tell you, like, here, just do this, but like, no, seriously, just whip it across the page and release it quickly, and you will get better at drawing bark, cement, dirt, hair, fur, wrinkles, all of it. It's a lot of fun. I got to fix some value differences here, so it looks like those tentacles need to be darker because it's hanging in front of the shaded neck, which is getting just as dark as the tentacles, so I need to be careful. See these right over here? Okay, so if those hang down, you can still see them as an outline, so I guess that's not too bad, but let's just darken the tips up. Let's just have fun with that. Let's just darken the tips up. You can still tell that they're there, just being very careful with it. If I do that, then I'll probably need to add some kind of shadow at the tips of these horns that are poking down towards the ground. Because remember, this is being lit from above. So like there's some bounce light happening off of the dirt and the ground, and it's bouncing back up. But I don't want to get too overboard with it. And you don't want to add too much in the background here, just because it's not important. All right, there we have it, guys. This is our cool little scene, a cool little creature scene with our friend here trying to talk to it. Maybe he needs to ask for permission to pass, or the two of them just happen to be strolling along and they ran into each other. Maybe they're old friends. All right. Thanks for tuning in, folks. And I hope you learned something today. Comment below if you did, or if you didn't. Whichever one. I respect the answer. Peace. Hey, friends. Welcome back. Okay, so I read all the comments that people leave, good and bad. But when I see a recurring theme, let's say somebody asks a question like, hey, can you draw this? Or, you know, we really want to see that. I take it to heart. I really study that because there are some really good ideas in the comments, stuff that I haven't even thought of. One of the recurring themes, and it happened, I guess, since yesterday when I posted my original layout for this, was that I don't draw enough aquatic creatures. And I thought to myself, I'm like, you know what? I really need to start drawing more aquatic creatures in here and explain my process too. So you're going to be getting a double dose of aquatic creatures and also further explanations of how I handle my pen work. When it comes to ocean-dwelling beasts, whatever you're going to draw, yes, it's good to look at reference. But at the same time, and just like with any alien sketching or any creature sketching, you do have some leniency as far as what you can make up and if it becomes believable. We don't know what's out there. We don't even know 90% of the stuff that's already in our ocean. We know a lot, but we still don't know a lot. And that's what makes our own world so terrifying. The fact that there are things being discovered in the Mariana Trench and deep, deep, deep in the oceans that it defies human reasoning. You know, the pressure down there is so immense that there are living organisms and fish down there that's completely unaffected by it. I think it's beautiful and also kind of terrifying because it makes you wonder what is on those other planets out there with the same makeup as our planet, you know, water, or not even a planet, some of the moons of other neighboring planets and solar systems, etc. Yeah, it's just really cool to think about that kind of stuff. But whenever I'm doing aquatic creatures, I always try to think about how they're going to swim. Now, one of the things about designing a creature in general is the overall body movement, you know, weight distribution, and that's what I have explained before in multiple videos. With this beast, I'm just taking the pen here and I'm lightly brushing the body. So if you're doing an aquatic creature, more so than any other, I guess, living thing that you're going to put in your sketchbook, it's good to make not an S curve, but something that looks like it's moving, you know, like a shape that's moving. You want motion in your creature sketches. You don't want boring stuff. People have a tendency, and hey, I'm totally guilty of this too, we have a tendency to play it safe with our designs because we're either afraid we're going too far or we just don't really know enough. All right, so whenever I look at creatures from the ocean, I tend to look at the eyeballs, I tend to look at the really cool fin shapes, and I see if they have any gills. All right, so you can see that I'm putting in some fins in places where I think it could benefit from having it. This is a pretty long body, so it's going to need some extra help as it pushes itself through water, or whatever liquid it lives in. This is why I love pens too, because it gives you the opportunity for really nice thick to thin lines. And it just makes drawing with a pen really enjoyable, and it's smooth. And if you mess up, if you all are drawing right now and you accidentally mess up with the pen, just take a good look at your sketch and ask yourself, did you really mess up, or are you just afraid of what you're creating? So I think a lot of people are just afraid of what they're creating because it's not what was originally in their head. I'm not going to say you're, because I'm not calling anybody out in this video. I'm just saying, you know, we as artists, we need to embrace the scribbling, because a lot of times, not most of the time, scribbling for us looks better than our finished stuff. It's because we were thinking more clearly, we were thinking more open. And with fish, it's a lot of fun. Again, we don't know what's down there in the ocean. We don't know what's on other planets. We can only guess based on what we've seen here. So like this tail shape that I'm playing with, I'm just scribbling it on. These little markings that I'm putting with my pen, I'm just lightly brushing over the rest of the body. If I want a shade, you know, I will turn the pen slightly to the side, loosely hold it. I'm not gripping it tightly, but I will loosely hold it, just kind of brush over some hatching across the body. And maybe I'll hint at some gills on the side. And also, you don't have to spend hours and hours trying to shade with a pen, because you know it's harder. The strokes are so skinny that it takes longer to fill up a space. You can just indicate where some shading is without actually having to spend the next 20, 30, 40 minutes trying to get that in. Now, yes, knowing how to control your pen does come in handy. That's just something that comes with a lot of practice. Okay. We will be coloring these, by the way. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to let the pen dry. Let's get a color in. I'm looking at my colors and going, well, maybe a blue. Nope, I think that's a little too dark. I kind of have PTSD when I use these things, because the last time I used brush tips, they bled. So I'm just going to use the fat end. Let's see what happens when I put that over the head. That's kind of cool. Let's put some stripes in here, like green stripes. I've been asked in the comments, does marker bleed through moleskin? The answer is yes. Let's actually see what's happening. Well, it's not too bad, but I don't really have anything under there that I want to keep anyway, so I'm just gonna continue. But yeah, moleskin isn't meant for marker. I just love drawing on moleskin, so I'm just very careful if I add any color on it. Alright, so we need a slightly different one. I don't know how yellow would look, so I'm going to go just a little off that, so it's like a little bit of brown. And maybe this creature is very colorful and it lives in the tropical region. Okay, now I think I can get some pretty bright yellows in there. Let's see what happens. This is going to be fun. I'm using the brush tip, so I don't know if that's going to bleed, but maybe we'll keep it up near the head. Yeah, that looks kind of cool. But I don't want to do anything else with the colors. Instead, I'm going to accentuate just the bottom of the creature at our bottom. So just the underbelly part where I can make it dark, because what that does is it adds some nice contrast to the rest of the lines that I drew. If you're drawing along with me, take a step back, stand up, stretch, just look at it and see what kind of creature this just might be. Give it a name. You know, write the name up here. Or if you're just keeping track for sheer number's sake, you can just put a 1 right there. Technically, this is number 4 because I drew 3 last night. You know, if you guys want to see me draw these and what I did with these, watch the previous week or the day's video, and then it'll bleed into this one. Let's move on to the next one. These do have fins, so maybe this creature is more of like a jellyfish, but I don't know, because I kind of want to go Lovecraftian and do some really wicked tentacles, because this thing might float. Maybe we can get some large fins right on the side. Oh yeah, there we go. There's a little eyeball, right like that. Don't ask me what this is. I have no idea. It kind of reminds me of a bat, a little bit of a puffer fish. And how about you guys comment and tell me what else this reminds you of? I seriously don't know. All I know is that it's kind of cute, but still creepy at the same time. And that's as cute as I'm going. A couple videos ago, I did attempt to sketch something cute. I think it was in my drawing spheres video, and I don't think it worked out too well. We do need to make this more fin-like, and I don't want to make it look like a giant ear, but maybe this creature actually does use its ears to swim. I don't know. But I'm just going to put in some value down here, and I'm just going to start inventing some of these lines just to see what happens. What if we give this fish a horn? Now we're getting into the weird territory. I'm going to embrace the weirdness. And we got to accentuate those tentacles. Maybe it uses the tentacles to move around. Of course, I would assume it does. If you're using your pen for this, it's better to keep the strokes longer and controlled versus doing hair marks, because the hair marks show up twice as much as they would with a pencil, mainly because graphite spreads apart a lot more than ink from a ballpoint pen. Speaking of ballpoint pens, this is a Bic stick pen that you can get at Walgreens, CVS. You can order off of Amazon. You could get it at Target. Yeah, these are great. All right, so now what I want to do is just add some tiny little suckers or details. It's almost like an octopus, but I'm going to put these on the tentacles. Maybe they help it feed, but also at the same time help it move. Who knows? There we go. I wonder what color I'm going to make this. It's very weird. And I think I'm going to put a big fin right here. That looks kind of cool, actually. I'm not going to lie. And then the tail, maybe it tucks its tail in underneath, and it has some fins coming out on the side, because it really can't bend its body any other way. Maybe the tentacles help move it forward, and it can't straighten its tail out and swim super fast. So maybe it just uses the tentacles for most of its speed. Put some ribbings in there. Now, I wonder what color we can use in. There we go. So we'll put an orange running horizontally down its body. Kind of reminds me of koi fish, but koi fish, they have the white spots on it and they're a little bit more brighter orange. I'm gonna mix in just a little strong yellow, but other than that, it's not going beyond that because I don't want to mix the pen with it. There, that's it. Now, another technique that you can use after you do some marker with your pen is you can actually go back over your drawing that you had marker on it. Very lightly outline some of the marker strips. And what this does is it actually gives it a nice outline to make it feel more finished. It's like a nice little polish. Actually, I'm just going to put a twist right here because the fen on the back needs to be very soft. It's not rigid. Hopefully you're enjoying this sketch and this continuation because this was my original page. Got some really Lovecraftian stuff, and then this one is not really Lovecraftian, but it's more alien. I'm going to put in some values again, or some shading right there. And I'm just going to fade it upwards into the body. Okay, and the other thing about doing thumbnail sketching, even in the messy state that we're in, you want to make sure that each body part is finished. That is, outlining it so that it looks good and it looks intentional and that you're ready to move on to the next shape. Okay, let's move around the bodies of these little critters and let's lightly brush in some pen strokes to kind of finish these creatures off. I would love to know what you all are sketching. Whatever you got out of this session, check the links in the description below for our Creature Design Workshop Discord. The other thing that I want to mention is the Discord itself isn't geared specifically towards creatures. Even though that's the main theme, it's more about getting more comfortable with your artwork, getting more confident, and being able to show your work to other people, ask for feedback. Because a lot of times we don't grow as artists simply because we're too scared of asking somebody else's opinion if we need to get better. And hey, I've been in that boat before where I just don't want anybody else's opinion because I feel like what I know is all I need to know. Then at the same time, I had to realize why my work wasn't progressing to the next stage. I've been on this one a lot. I think I really like this little fella. Could be a girl too, I don't know. I just like that creature. It's really cool. I'm going to go over here to these fens and put in some values. If you darken the tips of appendages and fins and tentacles and horns and spikes, it tends to bring a level of finish to it, like an intentional level of finish. With the pen, you have an opportunity to make the core shadows look really smooth. There we go. So I'm just going to go over the marker, and that's okay. I'm not pushing hard at all. But yeah, you should definitely check out the Discord. It's a lot of fun. I admit, like, that head is a mess. I probably shouldn't have done that. It was more of an experiment. This is why I have my sketchbooks. This is why you all have your sketchbooks. We're doodling. We're experimenting. That was an experiment. It didn't work out the way I thought that it would, but I don't hate it. So I'm going to embrace that, and I know next time I'm not going to mix that brownish orange with the yellow and then the green next to it because it kind of looks like puke right there. But I really hope you enjoyed the finish of my sketch page. I love doing this kind of stuff. You know, I specialize in thumbnails. I've been a concept artist for games and film for over a decade now. My specialty is creatures and I do characters. So if you want to know how to do this stuff quickly, definitely check out more of my videos. Comment below to see if they're helping. And I do read the comments, so if you have suggestions on what to draw next, I still have to get into the Pokemon stuff too. I did a Pokemon video, but there's many more that people were suggesting in that particular video. It's been pretty crazy. And it keeps going, like people keep commenting. So thanks again everybody for just sitting down and listening to me yap about this stuff, and hopefully you turned out some cool sketches. All right, there's our page, friends. Pretty neat, huh? I have like one number there. So let's do this officially. 1, 2, 3. Let's just turn that into a 4 and then have Walter as number 5 here. Yep, that's Walt. All right. Until next time, everyone, peace. Hey, welcome back. Glad that you're here. So go grab your sketchbooks, and I want you to grab a ballpoint pen this time. Typically draw with pencils on this channel, and I do sprinkle in some ballpoint pen every now and then. But we're going to concentrate on that today, and while we do that, I'll go over some techniques that I use for small creature thumbnail sketching. And we've covered quite a bit about creature thumbnails and how to handle just overall quick design, especially those of you that have never drawn before. I don't think that there's ever a limit to experimenting with a pen, and also just getting your sketchbooks out and doodling, not knowing what you're going to produce. I think that's one of the most fun things about it. You know, it doesn't matter what medium you use. It doesn't matter what medium you use, just as long as you can get some pretty decent sketch lines out of it. You could use charcoal, you can use mechanical pencil, you can use, any of the H's, any of the B's. I will say though, if you're not too familiar with all of the different types of pencils, try to keep the number of pencils that you use to a bare minimum, only because as you progress in your artistry, it's better to learn how to do a lot of the different sketching techniques with one pencil versus having to rely on an entire set just to accomplish a single drawing. Now, since we're focusing on a pen today, it's a little different. However, there is something to be said about what type of pen you use. Now, for me personally, I like Bic Ultra Round Stick Grips. Now, this isn't a stick grip. This is just a regular round stick that you can get at CVS. You can get at Walgreens, or you can just order it off Amazon too. But these are good because they rarely bleed. And just a little tip, if you do happen to have pens that bleed on you quite a bit, it could be one of several things. One being the pen sucks and it's old, so throw it out. Two, you're leaving the cap off too long. If you leave the cap off, the ink dries in there. And then what happens is 2, 3, 4 days later, even a month later, you go use the pen again. So the liquid ink is sitting behind the dry ink. And then when it wants to come out, guess what happens? It's like the dry ink is like a cork, and it just pops off the end of the brass here, and all of a sudden all the liquid pours out right after the dry one. That's why you get the blotches. So put your caps back on your pens just make it a habit as soon as you do that, and then it'll help. The other thing that I wanted to mention today is, with using new mediums and stuff, learning new techniques for art goes a long way in building up your arsenal, because there's a lot of different types of artists out there. I mean, we have painters and knitters and charcoal sketchers, figure drawers, whatever. But if you want to learn, if you're stumbling across my channel for the very first time and you have no idea what you're doing here, people have found my channel and just decided to draw that haven't drawn in years. I hope that my channel has that effect on you. That's very nice and humbling. Now, usually we don't spend too much time on our little thumbnails here, but just for the sake of making these pen sketches look a little prettier than normal, or at least trying to, I'm going to be putting some detail in here. This little beast. It's almost like a little bulldog and just a little mischievous alien all rolled into one, and there's no eyes. But what I'm going to do is just put in some pockets of really dark areas just to try to help the contrast. This is what I love about ballpoint pen. It allows you to get really dark really fast, and then all of a sudden you can lighten up and move on to the next sketch. It just helps the sketches feel grounded. Let's move on to our next one. If you're drawing along with me, I like to have orderly sketchbooks. But look, if your sketchbook is messy and you don't really care if images are overlapping or anything, that's totally fine. It's fine. I just like to keep things nice and neat, just because it it keeps my mind frame clean whenever I'm sketching or doodling. If I want to be neat in my sketches, I tend to look around my desk afterwards and I'm going, maybe I need to clean this sucker off. By the way, speaking of desks and cleanliness, make sure that your workspace is clean. It's really important to have a clean workspace. It doesn't matter if you're working remotely, if you have a full-time job at home, or if you're coming home from a long day's work, or you're working on the weekends in your little office. Clean that off. What that does is it allows you to work in a clutter-free environment, which has been proven to help productivity. But two, you just feel better about your workspace in general. You want to go there. On a little side note, if you do work at home, and it's possible, it's good to separate your workspace from your bedroom or your kitchen, especially your kitchen. Now, it's not always the case with everybody. Sometimes you can't. If you have a studio apartment or a really small place, which is totally fine, you can't do that. But try to compartmentalize it, by office dividers, something along those lines. It's a pretty nasty little critter here. It's almost like a horse, I guess. I'll put some ears here. Not really sure where this little critter's going. Should I call it a little one though? Because this critter could very well be 6, 7, 8 feet tall. Maybe I should put a little person there, but I think just for the sake of keeping the wonder, I think I'll leave it out. Maybe it's stomping through mud. That's why you can only see the paw up here. But if that's the case, I'm going to turn my pen to the side, and it's going to let out far less ink than if I were to turn it upright like this. So if you turn it to the side, where just a little bit of the brass hits the brass tip, that is, hits the paper, it does allow you to control the shading much, much better and easier. Okay, there we go. Notice how I'm not getting into too much detail on these areas, but I am indicating with these darker lines right here just enough to tell you, like, okay, well, there's the latissimus muscle right there, and you got your quadriceps. I might have screwed up on that anatomy a little bit. Maybe that back heel is a little too high, so I'm going to try to lower that right there. Because any kind of quadruped, I mean, they don't have much bicep, and they definitely don't have much calf, if at all. And their calves are far different looking than a normal human's. There we go. Now notice how I'm doing some directional hatching right here. I'm not cross hatching, there's nothing crossing. It's just one direction. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, what if we put like a double set of eyes here? I think that'd be kind of cool. But the skull, the underlying skull, is much like a horse. So I need to be really careful about any of this craziness that I'm adding. It's not a very friendly looking horse, huh? It is kind of human-like right there. Ooh, man. Well, that was an unplanned semi-anthropomorphic horse. I don't even know what I'm drawing anymore. That's the fun part. By the way, if you're drawing along with me still, and you're finding yourself doodling and not knowing where it's going, embrace that and keep going. Let's see what happens. This is why it's so fun. I'm having a lot of fun here just with this mane. What if we just spike it? Small controlled bursts with the line, thick to thin. There we go, right like that. But you have to be careful when you do this with a pen because it gets very, very thick very quickly. You can apply light to dark just as easily as a pencil. The only problem is once you start getting darker with a pen, it gets significantly darker. Whereas a pencil, you can keep building it up much, much easier. There we go. I'm going to twist some of that hair. Here's a cool little trick I like doing. You could do this with a pen or pencil. If you ever have a mane, a mohawk, a tuft of hair, fur, whatever, and you can see the roots of the fur or hair coming out of the skin, at the base, it's good to shade lightly in multiple directions until you fade the base in to whatever skin surface is right there. You don't want to abruptly end the dark roots of the fur or hair. You have to remember that each individual strand is also casting a shadow. It's no different than walking in through a very thick forest with tall trees. Sunlight and light in general is just penetrating, but there's going to be little places where it looks like it's faded off due to cast shadows, being spread out. So once you start fading the ends of the fur, and then what you do is you shade back up into the fur from the skin, it creates a very unique and unified texture. Now, it is different with a pen than it is with a pencil. It's hard to explain, really. I can only explain so much, but you just have to do this yourself. And then you'll realize the power of this. It's a lot of fun. Like right here on the front elbow. With a pen, each individual strand of hair and then flowing together offers a really nice, subtle, and soft touch. And then I'm going to go back in and try my best to fade where the fur touches the skin. And then I'll release it. And we definitely have to put it in the back here by the heel. I still don't know what the feet are going to look like. But we'll see. The other thing I'm doing with the pen, because the pen lines are so much more defined now, is that I go back into these open areas, like these areas where there's not a lot of detail. And if I quickly scribble in different directions and lightly overlapping each other, that creates a neat little skin texture. And then the cool thing is, the next stage, is that once you start overlapping these little areas, then you take your pen and keeping the strokes close together, you want to shade across everything very lightly. As a matter of fact, that technique that I'm using right now, I would practice away from your doodles. Just practice the movement to get used to the, not the hand-eye coordination, but muscle memory. Just very lightly. And you probably won't even be able to see that much on the camera. I would have to darken it a little bit. This does take some hand control. You would have to practice this, mainly because if you do push too hard while doing this technique, you might get too much ink, to put it lightly. All right, there we go. Now, the other thing that I can do is playing with line weight. I can darken the underside of this horse creature to make it seem like the cast shadow is on the underbelly. Okay, and then I'm gonna make this connected to the ground right here. Okay, and then I already did do it a little bit over here, but I think what I want to do next is take the little black areas, and I'm just gonna gently fade up some closer together hatching. And for lack of a better saying, I'm just gonna walk it up. There we go. Black toenails and black fingernails so that it stands out among the other details. Remember, it doesn't matter if you're using a pen or a pencil. It's all a matter of playing off of the values one at a time. There we go. So I hope that you liked today's lesson. These are a little bit more in-depth thumbnails, but you can clearly see that if you just spend a good 5 to 10 minutes on your pages or on your sketches, that you'll be able to layer up all of these designs. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today's lesson is a little bit different than what you're normally used to. We are going to be combining a ballpoint pen with a 4B pencil. So you're probably wondering, wait a minute, can you even do that? And the answer is yes. I'm going to show you how. Now it's going to be in thumbnail form, so we're not going to be sketching no huge work of art that's going to take 15, 20 hours or multiple days. I want you to grab your sketchbooks because I'm going to teach you how to do some thumbnail sketching if you haven't seen my videos before. If you're new to this, I just want you to grab whatever paper you have around you and just start doodling and scratching on some lines, yeah. So I thought today we could mix some plants and some creatures together. Those usually offer really cool ideas. Now, when you do thumbnail sketches, the point is you don't want to go too crazy with the details. You're just letting your mind wander, and this is a really good way to get your brain out of the comfort zone. So each artist, watching this, and maybe that we'll see it at some point, we all have our comfort zones that we go to when we're doing our artwork. Certain shapes, certain, certain ways that we start versus how we finish. Sometimes we have trouble finishing. The good thing about thumbnailing is that all of the lines that we put down are open to interpretation. You probably heard the term, I've thrown this around, idea factory. So you want to be an idea factory whenever you're doing thumbnails. So personally for me, my shapes tend to be more insectoid. Like you can see small flaps over here, but I'm putting leaves on it and maybe some vines or branches, maybe a root system going down here. It's just growing up, I obsessed about bugs. So I wasn't an entomologist. I didn't want to be that. I actually wanted to be a paleontologist because I was obsessed with dinosaurs more than bugs. Go figure. But as I got older and I really started to like the monsters and dinosaurs, especially after Jurassic Park came out, my brain just said, hey, Bobby, you're going to do creatures for the rest of your life. And you're going to do environments for the creatures. You're going to do crazy armor. And I think it just stuck with me. Okay, so you're probably wondering, wait a minute, you're putting all these ink lines down. How the heck are you going to put pencil in there? Well, we're almost there. Okay, notice how I'm not focusing on one small area too much. Again, I'm just letting my brain flow. Now, I have no idea what I just drew. That's the point. So, well, most of the time when we jump into these sketches of ours, we have this idea in our head of what we want to put down on paper. And if you're sculpting in 3D, you have this image in your head of what you're going to sculpt. The thing is, we don't really get to see the true potential of those things until we flesh out the entire body. Okay, so you can see all these little squiggly marks going across the body. Those lines are eventually going to show up with the pencil. Now, I've been on this, 3 minutes? It's almost 4 minutes. That's good. Stop there. And you're going to take a pencil like this. And then, this is why I want you to use a ballpoint pen and not liquid ink. So don't use the gel pens or whatever, because those take a little longer to dry. And they're really not good for drawing unless you're inking comics. Same thing with Repeatograph. Repeatograph is amazing. I love those pens. They're good for the super, super fine details, and they're great for stippling. So what you're going to do now is very lightly put a one-directional layer of graphite across the thumbnail, like this. And then I'm just going to turn the paper a little bit, and I'm going to do it again. Like this. So you can see here, this is different. You're probably not used to seeing these two mediums mixed together. We have ink and then we have pencil. Now the great thing about using the ink is, again, all the lines show up regardless of how hard you push with the graphite. So now what I'm doing is I'm looking at certain areas where I know that it's going to be a little darker, but again, this is a thumbnail, so you don't want to spend too much time on these, maybe another minute. This is different than my other teachings where you time yourself with your cell phone 2 to 3 minutes tops for just a basic thumbnail. Since we're combining tools, this is going to be a little bit more helpful to just go about 5 or 6 minutes. like this. And I'm even treating my pencil marks the same way I did the ink. And here you can see the harsh shadow underneath there. And then I can take the ballpoint pen and I can go right back over some areas where I know that the least amount of light is touching. So anywhere on the underbelly of whatever the heck I just drew is, I'll know that the pencil just isn't going to get, or I'm sorry, the light is just not going to get there. So now that shows up really well. And then you're done. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. So I'm just going to grab my pen again. Here's the other really cool thing about using ballpoint when you start off, is that, and I've said this before about you should avoid erasers. Well, this is going to force you to not erase because there isn't one. So that's what you want to ultimately achieve. Now, I don't want to copy this. So I'm going to try some different shapes here. Let's try some, maybe a plant that has alien-like exotic fruit. And I'm making the ellipses and ovals as dynamic as possible. I want to add a little bit of chaos in here. Differentiate the sizes of them. Okay, so now there's a lot of energy happening within that, and I've barely drawn anything. That's when you know your thumbnail is going to be successful. Now I'm just going to put the stem, or the stalk, whatever you want to call it, flowing right into what looks to be like a conch shell, or even a beetle. I don't know. Because again, remember, we wanted to mix creatures and plants together. So we'll see how this is going to happen. I can't promise anything, folks. I don't know. But if you're drawing along with me, number them. Okay, so this is number 1. Try to keep your, there's number 1. Try to keep your sketchbook nice and neat. Okay, and then maybe if I turn a little bit like this, you guys can see it a little better. Okay, so again, I'm not going to think about this too hard. On the actual stalks, and then the circle part, so I guess the bud can come out of here, or it's a creature and maybe there's extra legs coming out. Maybe I can put tiny little hairs, and if I want the hairs to really show up regardless of the amount of detail surrounding it, I'm going to push pretty hard on those little hairs. If you're a dude and you haven't shaved yet, you'll know what that looks like on your face. It looks like stubble. That's what we're putting on here, stubble. There we go. And I'm just little dots. You don't need anything fancy, just little dots here and there. Kind of spread them apart. Make sure that when you're doing something like this, you're putting in dots. It's a specific texture. So you need to give the illusion that that texture is wrapping around the shapes that you're drawing. So on the edges of the ovals, I'm making sure that the bristles, or the little, whatever you want to call them, hairs, stand out. And I'm not pushing as hard, because that puts the lines in depth. Just don't push hard. People ask me, how do you get so light with a ballpoint? I say, I just don't push hard. And I push harder when I want them to come in frame. There we go. And then what would be kind of cool is maybe this plant is alive to the point where it doesn't like where it's growing, so it just jumps. And then it goes to another patch of, I wouldn't say earth because it's not going to be on earth, patch of ground, and then it grows there. It likes it better. It's kind of creepy, actually. So I'm just going to put some really dark lines right underneath everything, because I know, based on the light source that I want, if the light source is up here, I'm just going to draw a little arrow. If the light source is up top, I know that everything on the underbelly is going to be darker, including some of the sphere. Okay, over here, because you have foundations, it's core shadows. But again, these are thumbnails, so we're not freaking out about making the core shadow wrap perfectly around the oval shapes. Okay, so we got that. That's all I want. I'm going to take my pencil again. Always make sure that this is sharp. Those of you that are new to my channel, I really stress this in just about every video that I teach, and making sure that when you're sketching that the graphite is sharp. Dull pencils make dull drawings, and you definitely don't want to do that unless it's a specific area that you're shading and you get that nice little flat spot on your pencil, then it's okay. So eventually you're going to have to turn the pencil over. Okay, so I'm switching directions like this, and I'm just going to put the pencil right over the ink. There we go. Now, you're viewing this on a computer or your mobile device. You're not really going to see the full effect unless you do this in real life. So if you're drawing along with me with both of these tools, hopefully you can start to see the effect that this has, and it's really, really cool. Because I can spend a lot of time putting my own details with a pencil in here, even though the ink is in there too. And what it does is it just offers a really good, like a juxtaposition of two different things. Okay, you can still put depth in there. You can still put shading. Okay, because it's, let's face it, it's a little harder to shade with a pen than it is a pencil. Let's make sure, no, that's not number 3, that's number 2. Made a goof. Okay, let's go on to number 3. Let's try something new here. Think about some cool animals and also some plants that we like. We like the succulent plants. Those are just really good for households. So maybe we could do something like that. I kind of did that up here, but this is more of, it looks like cabbage or lettuce. So let's say we're adding in some stalks. Let's open them up like this. I don't know how this is going to turn out, so you guys are going along with this journey with me. Okay, maybe like that. Now we could do something different down here. See how I'm just kind of throwing the lines together? This really, this is what makes thumbnailing so much fun. Okay, so now it looks like the root system has a bunch of long legs. Oh, subconsciously, I guess I was thinking of a crab with a succulent plant face. So now it looks like this thing can just get up and walk. Cool. Let's see where this goes. And that was me just experimenting and not really thinking about anything too hard. Now sometimes you're going to find yourself, experimenting with what you already do in your comfort zone. Like with me, crustaceans, exoskeletons, insectoid shapes. But there's always room for stuff that you don't normally do. Okay, so that's why up here, like big puffy shapes. Down here, I've never really combined a succulent plant head with what appears to be crab legs. No, never done it. Maybe we could do something else cool in here too. Like flower petals. Yep, you heard it here first, folks. I am drawing flowers. I don't know why I'm drawing flowers, but I'm drawing flowers. Maybe this is a household plant that got mutated because a bug fertilized it, or the owner fertilized it with something radioactive. And here it is. It walked out of a flower pot, and now it's going to go down the street and try to plant itself. There we go. I'm just making that up. Okay, so I'm just going to be simple with this and light this from above. I'm going to keep the dark parts under here. Let's thicken it up with the ballpoint. Those of you that are tuning in to my channel for the first time, you know that I definitely advocate for sketching with both a pencil and a ballpoint pen. I try to mix them up as I go. Okay, there we go. Even these really light gestural lines that are in here that can suggest detail, you can put pencil marks over that and the pen marks will still show up. That's why it's so awesome combining ink and pencil. And I can also understand if you're a little hesitant in doing that, especially if you're doing that for a school assignment or something. You don't know how it's going to turn out. Now I can shade with a pen too. I've done that in other videos. I'm going to hold off on that because I want to keep the shading strictly with a pencil. The only thing that I'm doing with a pen that's remotely shading is putting in the harsh cast shadows, where things will definitely be darker due to the light from above. But I also want to show most of the body too, so I'm going to take my pencil and then I'm going to put one single layer to start across the body. Very lightly. I'm holding the pencil at the end of it so that my grip isn't too tight and I'm not forced to put a lot of detail in there. That's what you want to avoid. But notice how I lifted my hand up to speak and then I'm going back to my picture. Make sure that when you go back to your picture that you're going the same direction that you were previously going. This will keep everything in harmony basically. Because a lot of times if you get distracted, you lift your pencil up and you go do something like go to the bathroom, get food, do whatever, and you come back and you start shading in a different direction. Where those two directions overlap when you start tends to be darker and it kind of ruins your train of thought. Okay, so now that we got the majority of our plant creature shaded in one direction, now I'm going to turn it. I'm going to see what happens. I don't know how this is going to turn out. You guys are witnessing this in real time just like me. And right now my strokes are tighter together so I can fill in the gaps of the paper. And notice how I'm not worried about staying inside the lines. Right now we're just at the thumbnail experimentation phase. This is what's going to open your mind up to new possibilities. When you start refining your work, that's when it's okay to try to stay inside the lines and making sure everything's nice and tidy. Okay, so what's cool about this design is this whole head of the succulent plant blades, I guess you can call them, there's going to be a cast shadow across the entire torso down here. That's why I wanted to leave it for the pencil and not the ink, because the ink was just going to make it jet black and I don't want to do that. Because remember, shadows are never purely black. The only time shadows are really black is when there's no light source getting in there. Like if you're shading a box, like if you're doing a cube, the contact shadow on the ground where the box meets it, that's probably going to be a black line, just because there's really no light getting in there. But you want to avoid black at all costs. Just like you want to avoid using white to mix colors to make them lighter, because it's not going to help. It's going to give you a false lightness with the color. Okay, the other thing you got to be careful with though, and I forgot to mention this before, if you're combining ink and graphite, you don't want to shade too much on top of the ink, because since the ink has a natural sheen to it, the graphite does too if you push too hard. If you combine those, then when you move the light around or when you just look at your sketches, you're going to get a reflection of the light source in your room onto the pencil, and you want to avoid that. So I'm going to stop shading right there. That's when you know to stop. So that's number 3, the real number 3. All right, let's do another one. And comment below if you're learning a lot about this, if you're trying this. I also want to know if you're frustrated. Oh, I need that pen. I want to know if you're frustrated too, because again, this might be completely new for some of you. And you know, I understand your frustrations if it's not working for you right away. That's totally fine. The other thing I suggest is checking out the links in the description and the links in the very first comment, the pinned comment. The Creature Design Workshop Discord that I run, it's a bustling community and I invite you to join it. It's free to join that. We have an influx of aspiring concept artists and industry veterans coming in every day with their own sketches. We have we have monthly creature design challenges based on a short brief that I give. We have voting, we have winners. It's a lot of fun. And then I run a creature design workshop off of my Discord. If you want to sign up for that, just check out the link for the website below. And then about a month or two ago, I am just excited the fact that I can start up my private mentorship again. So if you're interested in my private mentorship, please email me at bobbyrebholz@gmail.com. That's also in the description below in the first comment. You know, if you can't do any of the workshop or the mentorship, you should just stop by the Discord for a little while and see if it's to your liking. We learn a lot. We got a big cache of reference, hard surface, environments, weapons, creatures. We have a figure drawing section in our Discord. It's just a lot of fun. This looks like a heart. Doesn't it? Looks like a heart. I don't know. It also looks like a giant beetle. Totally did not mean to draw a beetle. But we're drawing plants, so maybe if we make those some big petals or something. Aha. Didn't expect to do that. I am very uncomfortable right now because I don't know what's happening. Now this looks like a flower is opening up. What am I doing? You're going on the journey with me, guys. I don't know what's happening here. This might be the climax of the entire sketching session. So let's see where this goes. It's just a bunch of lines. It kind of looks like a deadly plant, but it also looks like a flower, like we're looking at the top of a flower with the petals opening. Maybe the petal arms are coming out of a shell or something. Now it looks like the belly of a platypus, or I don't know. I don't know what's happening. Let's see where it goes. It could be the belly. Could be like a pine cone too. That would be kind of neat, right? Maybe we can start layering some different areas where it looks like the cone itself is growing out of the body. Yeah, that's kind of neat. It's a big plant too. And this is the other cool thing about drawing with a pen is the lines that I immediately need to get darker. I don't have to worry about if my pencil can handle that. With the pen, you know it can. The ballpoint pen. Since this one's a little bit more detailed, maybe we will end the session with this one and see how it turns out. If you've made it this far, congratulations. I invite you to, or I encourage you to watch till the very end, just to see what happens. See how I got there. Comment below if you're in school right now and you're doing projects and this is helping you, if your thumbnail process is improving. I love finding out what students are going through, especially in school, their personal projects, trying to find a job. And I try to help any way that I can. Okay, we are on the home stretch. One thing that I'm forcing myself not to do is do any shading with the pen, even though I want to. I'm going to jump right in these crevices and be like, I want to shade there. No, I'm going to keep the pen strictly for line work, and I'm going to shade with the pencil, because that's what the lesson is today. It could be frustrating learning that kind of discipline and like, oh, I can't use that. But it's going to pay off in the end when you can do that with the tools that you're making or you're using. The only shading I'm doing really isn't even shading, it's just shadow placement. Because I know that those areas are going to be darker. And since this is a thumbnail, it's the dirty, gritty stage of it. Nothing's really finalized in the drawing. This is the very beginning stages. I can get away with just kind of making up areas where I believe a deep crevice would exist. Because who's to tell me that it's wrong? At this stage. I mean, later, if it's not working, then yeah, you're going to need to change it. But again, when I was mentioning before about the gesturing and the interpretation that it gives, that's such the fun. It's so much fun about thumbnailing because 10 people can look at this and see 10 different things. It's not finalized, and hopefully it'll excite people. That's a lot of fun. And I'm getting ideas as I'm drawing. You know, what to make darker. Putting in a little bit more detail in this one. Okay, so now we got a mutated killer pine cone being flung at us at 42 miles per hour. That's what's happening right now. So we have a plant that came alive in Sony's apartment. We got a pine cone that's being hurled at us. We have one plant that was upset because of where it was dug into in the earth or the ground, so it just got up and left. And then this poor thing is like, I don't know, like a sorry offspring of a plant. And they're just unhappy and floating. Okay, so this is number 4. 3. Also, you'll probably notice that my style of doing thumbnails, it's neat. I like to be neat with my thumbnails. You have full permission to be very messy with your thumbnails, as long as you know what's happening and that you can convey your idea as clearly as possible. So maybe being messy isn't the way to go if you have a specific idea in mind. Okay, I'm done with the pen. Let's jump into the pencil. So I took about a 30-second break before I started this new segment, so I just sharpened my pencil again. Here we go. We're going to put one coating across here. I'm not pushing harder as I'm moving up the shape. Notice what I just did there. So if I'm shading like this, in this direction, 45 degrees, and I have to raise my hand to shade a new area because the angle of my hand isn't comfortable, I'm still going the same direction as what I previously did. And then I jump over here to this pedal and I make sure that those pencil strokes are the same direction, so that when all of these meet back up in a more narrow area, you can keep shading in that direction. And then you just go wider if the shape permits that. These are the little secrets of keeping your pictures nice and tidy so they don't look like a complete mess when you're sketching. Because look at this, I mean, all that ink, that's a mess, but it's like controlled chaos. So I put the darkness where it needed to be, put the outlines where they needed to be, and now the shading is going in one direction because it's intentional. So I'm going in the same exact direction that I started up this pedal. I'm going to lift it, and I'm going to go the same direction this one. Then, that's when you turn it, like that, and then you do it again. So I'm going to go the opposite. Do you need patience for this? Yes, you do. Make sure that you're keeping your pencil strokes close together so that the gaps in between each stroke are going to be filled much faster. Otherwise, you're going to be doing 25 passes instead of 5. This is why having a sharp pencil is very important. At this angle, you're going to be lifting up in different spots. See how I went up that pedal? And I'm going to go back, and the angle's still going to be the same. See how these pencil strokes are going out of the lines? That's fine, because the ballpoint pen gave me the definitive line of the shape, so I don't have to worry about what the pencil's doing. The pencil is there just to help add value and depth. Honestly, it's just depth. Because I can, like, for example, if I go up this pedal the same direction, and I don't want to stop at the very end, I'll just keep shading up and then release my pressure. Now it just looks like there's mist around the pedal that I already defined, so it's fine. This is why it's fun doing ballpoint pen and pencil. There you have it. Okay, so we did some really cool stuff here. If you sketched along with me, or if you're going to watch this later and sketch along, just relax, put some music on, light a candle, open the window, draw outside, do whatever. And if you have some plants around your condo, house, apartment, whatever, farm, try to draw those, but turn them into creatures, because I think a lot of times creature concept artists forget that it's not just animals we got to look at. It's also the stuff that grows out of the ground, because the stuff that grows out of the ground on this planet is actually as weird, if not weirder, than the animals we have. We got some crazy plants. So hopefully that helped. Thank you all for tuning in. Love you all. Until next time, see you later. Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Okay, so today we are going to talk about imagination, and specifically taking what you're thinking and actually putting it on paper. Now, that's, how should I put this? That's a lot easier said than done, especially with those of us that claim we can't do that, or we have a hard time doing it. We've all heard that term, aphantasia. You know, it's the inability to form mental images in our head. And that is a real thing. So if I told you, hey, you're sitting on the couch, can you picture a two-headed dog with a shopping cart and one leg coming into your living room and talking to you? Can you see that in your head happening in real time? If you have aphantasia, you cannot see that. But let's put it to paper now. Okay, so let's say you're sketching something, or no, take that back. You're thinking something, and you want to sketch it on paper, but you feel like your imagination just isn't giving you what you desire. Or you see some really cool images in your head, but once you put it on paper, you screw everything up. I mean, we've done that a lot before as artists. It's one of the main reasons why I tell people to just embrace scribbling on this on my channel. Mainly because there's a lot of power in scribbling. So we don't get fixated on specific things in our head that we want to put down on paper. You know, for example, when I would buy sketchbooks back in the day, I mean, we're talking really, really young. Okay, and my mom would buy me sketchbooks from CVS or Walgreens or whatever pharmacy there. And I would have these really awesome ideas in my head, and then I would start drawing. And in the first 30 seconds, I would screw up because the first lines that I would put down weren't anything like I thought that they would be or should be. So naturally, you cross it out or you rip the page out because you think it's going to ruin the sketchbook if you leave it in there. But I'm here to say that, I mean, you can unlock your real creative potential if you just leave the images on the paper and try to build off of them. So like right now, what I'm doing, I had no plan for this. I set my camera up, I open my sketchbook. Many of you probably have already seen the video where I used, you know, some acrylic markers and I did this little guy right here. I'm just using the next page. You know, I try to fill my sketchbooks up as much as I can. Right under it is my drapery lesson. So if you haven't seen that video, please check that out in drawing lessons. But, you know, with this, I just started putting a shape down, some scribbles, and thinking, well, it kind of looks like a worm, kind of looks like an acorn. I don't know, let's see what happens. Now, a lot of imagination has to do with things that we have already seen, which is something that I do stress about quite often, is gathering reference. Okay, and if you're worried about what kind of reference to gather, there really is no specific kind unless you have a brief given to you by a client and you have to search for specific images. But, I mean, there's a lot to be said with just being an observant human. Just look at life around you. Look at people. Look at animals. Look at plants. I'm a creature designer, and I think about plants all the time. There's some really exotic stuff on this planet that people don't give credit for in using when it comes to creature design. So I think that's definitely something that we should think about. The other thing about imagination is that it's yours. It's nobody else's. And I think that a lot of times when aspiring concept artists start drawing, they end up drawing for other people versus themselves. So the imagination never comes into full effect like it should, because we're constantly worrying about making things perfect versus exploring in order to have the perfect design. Because technical skills happen over time. Knowing how to design, that's a different type of skill. There are a lot of art directors out there that can't draw really well, and that's okay because their ideas are amazing. Or, you know, authors and game designers, they're very good at designing the game, but they need a concept artist to flesh it out. So different skills like that, you know, that's part of the imagination process too. So the other thing about taking your sketches or taking your imagination and forming them into sketches. You know, I mentioned aphantasia before, the inability to see imagery in your head. Scribble. Put images down through the use of scribbling, seeing what lines work, what doesn't work, because all of these lines that I'm putting in here right now, these are mechanical movements, just knowing the hand pressure, applying thick to thin lines, releasing the pressure. I cannot talk today. I don't know what's up. You release the pressure. And it's a combination of all that happening at once. Okay, and I'm just using nothing fancy. Just a Bic Ultra Round Stick Grip. It's a black ballpoint pen. I love using this thing. You don't need anything fancy to draw. There we go. Okay. I mean, so far so good. It's a lot of fun, and I don't really have to worry about anything. And if you want to learn new skills, experiment. You can experiment with paints, markers, or whatever. Okay, so now we're going to start to add some shapes in here just for fun. There's going to be no pre-visualization of what I was thinking of putting in. We're just going to have some fun, put some lines in here and see what happens. This is the other thing about imagination and being able to sketch from imagination. Now, there's a misconception that imagination is only about coming up with crazy concepts on the fly. But the other part about it is letting the sketch flow normally and seeing where the shapes come and building off of those shapes. So instead of worrying about screwing up all the time, now that I'm looking under the spikes here coming off of the neck, I didn't know that that was going to happen 20 seconds ago. That's also imagination. So let's say that those of you out there can't really draw well, technically, like that you don't have a good shading ability, your lines don't look good, but you're good at forming ideas and you're good at thinking through the problems that you see, whether it be math, reading, or whatever. You can do the same thing with drawing. So if you're doodling along with me and you start putting some shapes down, see what shapes look good compared to the other ones. So right now I'm drawing this long neck right here, and then these spikes are coming up from the neck. And without hesitation, I'm just going to start putting in some ridges and seeing what happens. And lo and behold, we have a pretty cool looking spiked neck that I originally didn't plan. And that's also part of imagination too. So to go back to what I was talking about with aphantasia and not being able to see images in your head, if you can scribble shapes down on paper, those form ideas in themselves. Okay, so if you're thinking of a dragon, or you're thinking of a cat, or a car, or whatever, you can still put markings down and have those overlap and form their own shapes. And then it might form a dragon or a car or a cat or whatever you're drawing. Like this creature right here, I kind of knew that it was going to be worm-like, but that's as far as it went. Everything that's happening within the body, not really sure what's going on. And that's the fun part. I don't really care. There's going to be some things over here that probably won't work. Like for example, these platings that are on the head, I might have to put some wrinkles in here at some point, which I should probably do right now actually. So I'll just do that. And then let's just see what happens on the other side. And I'm making the markings a little darker on the other side just so it shows up. Because if there's a core shadow running down there, technically this is a cylinder, then I'll have to use that core shadow on the side. And I might be able to do it over here too on these mandibles. Maybe out here on the big mandible, although that's a pretty big tusk. I might just keep that really prominent. Nice and sharp as it comes out at us. So the closer that something gets to us, the more detail and the darker it should get. Not all the time, but most of the time. A lot of times I do it for creatures, especially arachnids and insects, just because it looks cooler. And start putting in some shading under there. So you can see that when you have an image in your head, when you have an idea in your head, and it doesn't always look the way you planned on the paper, do not, under any circumstance, throw that thing away. Because if you sleep on it, if you come back to it, you'd be surprised at the instances when you realize, you actually had a good idea, you were just tired. Like that happens all the time. Now back in university, this is like way back in early 2000s. This thing's gross, by the way. I'm just putting legs down. But anyway, back in 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7, when I was in college, we would draw things at 1 or 2 in the morning when we would go back and hang out and just kind of not goof around or whatever, but we had a good time in studio. We got our best work done actually in the evenings. But when we drew too late, and I didn't feel like drinking Red Bull or anything, you think that what you're putting down on paper looks good, and then you sleep on it, and then the next day you come back and you wonder, What the heck did I just draw last night? I don't know. It's kind of like when, I don't know how many of you younger folks are using Facebook, but, you know, I've been on Facebook since 2005, and I do get reminded of my old status updates that I would give, and I'd go, what did I just type? The most embarrassing stuff that you couldn't believe you sent out to the world, to the public, to your family, to everybody, and you thought that it was a cool thing to write. Those are embarrassing, but they're also kind of fun to read, and they're a little nostalgic. I don't really know where I'm going with that, but I guess I was trying to make a comparison to, you know, drawing, and then you step away from it for a little bit, and then you come back to it and you realize, oh, that's not good. There we go. Okay. Hopefully you're having fun with this too. Those of you with not so good imaginations, I guess you can coin that for yourselves. Just take your trusty pen, see what happens. Yeah, there we go. I'm just adding in some scribbles here. I don't really know what the creature is. It's kind of like a big worm spider. You can't go wrong with worm spiders. But also, it's a little bit of a, I guess, a mammal? Maybe a mammal. I said that as if it's a question, like you guys can answer right now, and you can't answer. But I don't know what it is. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, taking a step back, seeing what you drew, and then you come back to it and you realize, maybe it actually was a good idea. Maybe I had a good thing going. I've opened previous sketchbooks before where I haven't touched a drawing in months or even years, and I came back to it and I'm like, you know what, I actually started something really nice. I just never finished it because I didn't have the confidence, or the idea that I had in my head was not translating on paper the way I thought. And that's okay. It's like reading a novel, and then a director comes along and thinks that they can just make a movie out of it, and they shouldn't have done it. You know, same thing. Because it's really hard to capture the magic from a book in a film. You know me, got to talk about movies. And one of the few directors in all of Hollywood that actually can adapt books to movies very well is Frank Darabont. Because, in my opinion, him, maybe Rob Reiner, and one other are just really good at translating Stephen King novels to movies. Frank Darabont is amazing at translating Stephen King novels to movies. He's just always done a great job. Shawshank Redemption was amazing. Okay, and then he turns around and he gives us The Green Mile, another great movie. And then he turns around and he adapts The Mist, which technically is not a novel, it's a novella. But that's like 3 home runs in a row. Good job, Frank. Rob Reiner did Stand By Me. You guys remember Stand By Me? I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, those of you that have been reading Stephen King for years, I believe the story that Stand By Me is based on isn't called Stand By Me, it's called Body, or The Body, whatever, you know, where they look for Ray Brower. But Rob Reiner did a fantastic adaptation. Great movie. I can't believe that, you know, River Phoenix is in it. A lot of people don't know that that's Joaquin Phoenix's brother, or was his brother. Rest in peace. Okay, now I'm just throwing out some scribbles here. This is so much fun. Because then, this is when you can let your imagination run wild. And if you feel like you don't have a good imagination and you can't put it on paper, just let it go. Just let it go. Right now I'm just putting these lines down and I just don't care where they go. Because look at all these overlaps. Okay, now I have a basic outline of where things are. For example, this is a leg, that's a leg. That's the hint of a leg, and so is that. That's a leg. But that's it. I don't really need to worry about anything else. All of these lines that are overlapping are forming its own exoskeleton, which is really fun. There we go, just like that. Okay. So hopefully you enjoyed today's lesson. If you want to learn more about creature design, check out the link in the description below and join our Creature Design Workshop Discord. Free to join the Discord. We're at almost 5,500 members. It's a bustling community. It's so much fun watching people join it and grow as an artist. You know, they're having breakthroughs literally on a daily basis. I did not use the word literally correctly because we're not talking about reading. But anyway, yeah, join the Discord. We have monthly creature design challenges where I give a brief based on what it would look like if you were a freelancer, you were working with a client. The other thing about it is we have a huge reference cache, environments, concept art, old masters, all of that. So you can come and look at it. Robots, character design, creature design, props, all of that. We accept 3D artists. We accept all skill levels. We have industry veterans in there, art directors, visual effects artists, producers. We have complete and utter noobs at drawing, and we have people that are joining the Discord that aren't even interested in drawing. They just want to look at art. They just want to look and they're curious about it. That's great. The other thing is I run a mentorship, and it's a private mentorship, so everybody's assignments are different. If you're interested in talking to me further about my mentorship, please email me at bobbyrebholtz@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to give you all the details about it. It's a rolling basis, so the months do fill up pretty quickly. So if you have a specific time slot that you need, just let me know. Or if you just want to inquire about it, that's fine. You know, I ask people if they want to join the mentorship and they actually do sign up, they have to join the Discord because that's where the mentorships are all conducted. All right. Hopefully, you really liked today's lesson. The past couple videos, I've just been showing the power of scribbling. And this one in particular was about putting your imagination to paper. Okay? Stop worrying about what other people are thinking about your drawing, because then you won't get any better. You're going to end up drawing what you think other people want to see versus what you want to see. And what you want to do and what you're happy about resonates with people a heck of a lot more. And it resonates with yourselves too. Thank you all for tuning in. If oh, you know what? I can't forget this. Before we sign off, you are going to name this creature. So, in the comments below, name this creature. Name it something crazy. Or it could be Chuck. Does it look like a Chuck? I don't know. It might look like a Chuck. See you folks. Peace.